Good evening, everyone. We'll call this meeting order at 7 p.m. Council had a closed session prior to this, so I'll reconvene the meeting at 7. I will read a land acknowledgement. As business on this land, the town of Bradford, Gwillimbury acknowledges that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, which includes Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as Three Parts Confederacy. We recognize the Huron-Wendat, Chippewa, and Haudenosaunee nations have walked on this territory over time. Times of great change, we recognize more than ever the importance of honoring Indigenous history and culture, and are committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation, respect, and good health for all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people. All right, like I said, Council had a closed session before this our opening session here. So we do have a motion arising from closed. So I'll read it and then I'll ask for a mover seconder. So that Council authorize the sale of 1.2 acre vacant portion of municipal property described as being part of PIN 58005-0096 to Kierland, 5th Line, Bradford Limited, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute all documents necessary to complete the transaction. Mover seconder puts on the floor by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Harper. Questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Pen just fell apart, so we'll throw that in the garbage. Okay, moving on. We are on to adoption agenda, section 5. I have recommendation that regular council and committee whole agenda dated October 21st, 2025 be adopted as amended. May I have a mover second to put this on the floor, please? Moved by Councillor Scott, seconded by Councillor Harper. Questions, concerns with the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Declaration of pecuniary interest and the general nature you declare now, or if you find yourself in that position later on, just let us know prior to that, moving into that agenda item. Seeing none, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, 7, presentations, there's none. Deputations, there's none. We are at open forum, and I have 3 people that signed up for open forum. I'll reiterate that everybody has 5 minutes at their time for open forum, so we will start with Kevin Bichard, talking about the growth management strategy. The floor is yours, sir.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. My name is Kevin Bichard. I'm a land use planner with IPS Consulting Limited. We're at 647 Welland Drive in Barrie. I've had the clerk distribute a letter to you this evening, and I'll be referring to the letter as I go through. Essentially, this evening I'm representing the CPA 5 landowner group who own lands in the vicinity of Line 9 and Yonge Street, of course, and we are advancing a secondary plan in the area. The first schedule identifies the lands, and you'll see that they're hallmarked by a split residential and industrial designation, industrial commercial designation under the official plan. I appreciate that the town has, and staff in their review of our September 9 submission to the public meeting has refined conversion criteria for industrial commercial lands, and we appreciate the movement in that regard. However, I'd like to ask for 2 further modifications to the report as they go forward, particularly addressing first the assumptions that are made in the Watson report in arriving at a land inventory or a land need to supply or the economic growth or meet the economic demand. And the second, specific wording modifications to the provisions dealing with industrial commercial redesignation. In the Watson report, there are 2 assumptions that they use. The first is an intensity adjustment factor of 10%. We're asking for an intensity adjustment factor of 10% versus 0, and a vacancy adjustment factor of 15% versus 25%. These adjustments, we think, will create a more appropriate alignment of need to land supply in terms of arriving at appropriate quantum for land needs. Let me just explain what an intensification factor is. An intensification factor is the amount of jobs that are going to be contributed by existing industries in Bradford in meeting that economic growth scenario. Watson report has assumed that there will be 0 jobs. That means 0 economic growth in this community in meeting that economic supply. On figure 2, I show other reports that Watson has used where they've used an average amount of 13% intensification factor, and you can see the BWG number is 0. What that has the effect of doing is overestimating the land supply need. And so we're going to request that the factor be adjusted to 10%, which allows for consideration that existing industry in Bradford will contribute to the economic growth in the planning period to 2051. The second assumption that I'd like to have reviewed is the reasonable vacancy adjustment. And what the reasonable vacancy adjustment, and I'm on page 4 of my note, it refers to the inventory of employment lands that will be left over at the end of the planning period, so in 2051. Watson has assumed that there will be 25% of these lands left over in the inventory. Normally, and what they have assumed in other reports, and I've shown them in figure 3 in the GT area, is a vacancy rate of about 15%. So we're proposing that that not be 25% and it be 15%. So why does all of this matter? I want to go back to the purpose of the Phase 1 growth management strategy is in part to consider the opportunity for conversion of existing land use designations in the official plan to accommodate residential growth. When we apply our assumptions to the Watson report, what we find is that there is a surplus of industrial lands in the forecast of 100 to approximately 140 hectares. Now, that does not mean that all the industrial commercial lands in the town of Bradford can or should be converted to a non-residential use. What it does mean is that there's an inventory that's being overlooked by the Watson report that should be considered as part of this examination. I'm going to just go quickly then. There are some wording modifications that we proposed for clarity in terms of the consideration of future conversion of industrial commercial lands. One particularly addresses the issue of whether or not proximity is a disqualifier. Proximity to a major highway, the Bradford bypass, is a disqualifier. We don't think it should be outright. It may be an issue that we address in a future official plan amendment, but it shouldn't cap any consideration of that going forward. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you. And that report will be up when the Deputy Mayor is the chair, so if he finds any need to call you up for any further clarification, if the Council needs some more clarification, they can call you up that time. All right? Thanks. All right. We are on to our second Deputy, and I should have let everybody know, I forgot I had my hat on. It just was natural today. It was a great game yesterday, and we're looking forward to the Jays go to the World Series, so some of us have a little bit of Blue Jay paraphernalia on, and we're all excited about that. So that's why I have my hat on today, to support the Blue Jays. All right, next up in the open forum, I have Steph St. Clair speaking to also the growth plan.
Good evening, members of council. I'm just actually going to speak on the public square really quickly, and secondly, the growth. So first, I saw the report. It was great. I'm not going to comment on anything about that because staff does their job on that. But my thought was potentially, I didn't see like a marketing objective or strategy in the report. To basically, we have these great facilities now to lease. So how are we going to be marketing that so that the general public knows? Like, for instance, we have the sign right outside. Having a QR code that just says rent this space would be, you know, able to help that along. So maybe look into how we're going to start advertising our rental spaces more efficiently. And the second, real quick, in regards to the Bridge Street corridor for growth management, what type of incentives can we offer, or has there been thought of incentives to offer the properties that are going to be sitting in the floodplain, which are going to be harder to develop in the long run? So what incentives are there to promote people to actually build on those lands? And that's it. Have a good night. Go Jays, go.
Thank you very much. Short and sweet. We like that. Okay, and I have now Tim Kane, and speaking about land OPA also.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. I'll be brief like the last time I think I was here on September 9th. I'm here tonight representing Pearl Builders Group, who are the owners of 30875 Side Road. You may recall my last deputation was speaking to the inclusion of light industrial uses in the logistics designation that's being proposed tonight as part of OPA number 1. I had initially signed up tonight just to express continued concern about the removal of light industrial uses from that designation. But thanks to a productive meeting with staff before this meeting, we have confirmed and better understand now that light industrial uses, albeit not specifically permitted, would still allow for smaller industrial and employment uses on this site. So with that direction, that will be appreciated by our clients and will certainly come into play as we continue to do some development concepts on these lands to bring them to fruition sooner. And a big part of that will be OPA number 1 tonight. So I want to thank you and thank staff, and we'll see you not too soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tim. Okay, that's it for open forum who signed up. So we're on to section 10, the adoption of minutes and committee of whole recommendations. So I have a recommendation that committee of whole recommendation COW 2025-52 to COW 2025-53 be approved, and the minutes of regular council and committee of whole meeting dated October 7, 2025 be adopted as printed. Move in a second, please. Moved by Councillor Giordano, seconded by Councillor Ferragini. Question, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. We're into correspondence. So there's a correspondence item on the agenda for tonight, and if everybody's okay, I'll read the recommendation. It is elect respect campaign support. So recommendation: whereas democracy is healthy when everyone is able to participate fully and safely and contribute to the well-being of their community. And whereas we are witnessing the dissolution of democratic discourse and respectful debate across all levels of government and in neighboring jurisdictions. And whereas Ontario's municipally elected officials are dealing with increasingly hostile, unsafe work environments, facing threats and harassment. And whereas social media platforms have exacerbated disrespectful dialogue, negative commentary, and toxic engagement, which disincentivizes individuals, especially women and candidates from diverse backgrounds, from running for office. And whereas better discussions are made when democracy is respectful and constructive and the voices of diverse genders, identities, ethnicities, races, sexual orientation, gay ages, and abilities are heard and represented around municipal council tables. And whereas the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Healthy Democratic Project, has identified concerning trends with fewer people voting in local elections and running for municipal office. And whereas in 2024, female elected representatives across Halton formed a group called HER, Halton Elected Representatives, which pledged to speak out against harassment and negativity in politics and call on elected officials to uphold the highest standards of conduct. And whereas Halton has launched a campaign called Elect Respect to promote the importance of healthy democracy and safe, inclusive, respectful work environments for all elected officials that encourages individuals to participate in the political process. And whereas on June 5, 2025, the Canadian Association of Feminist Parliamentarians launched a nonpartisan parliamentary civility pledge to encourage all parliamentarians to commit to end workplace harassment and increase civility on Parliament Hill, modeled after the pledge developed by Halton by representatives of HER. Now therefore be resolved, the Town of Bradford's Gwillimbury Council supports the Elect Respect Pledge and commits to treat others with respect in all spaces, public, private, and online. Reject and call out harassment, abuse, and personal attacks. Focus debate on ideas and policies, not personal attacks. Help build a supportive culture where people of all backgrounds feel safe to run for and hold office. Call on relevant authorities to ensure the protection of elected officials who face abuse or threats, and model integrity and respect by holding one another to the highest standards of conduct. And that the Town of Bradford's Gwillimbury Council calls on elected officials, organizations, and community members to support the Elect Respect campaign and sign the online pledge at www.electrespect.ca. And that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, MP Scott Davidson, and MPP Carolyn Mulrooney. Mover second to put this on the floor, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Scott. Questions, concerns with this resolution? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm so glad that we have this here at the table to look at it today. At AMO, those that attended AMO heard from many of the female councillors that the threats they get, threats of rape to themselves, rape of their kids, daughters, and other physical threats and verbal threats. There should be no need for that. I know this speaks about, holding the elected officials to uphold the highest standards, but this also should go as far as, to the society where social media could be a good tool, but sometimes it's so toxic that it's easy to sit behind a keyboard and make a threat like that and get away with it. So I'm happy to move this, and I hope we pass this tonight and send it to AMO and the others.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Any further comments? Councillor Scott?
Thank you. I think the resolution, as the Deputy Mayor just said, speaks to two important things. The first being the barriers and inequities that women in politics still face. I think we all probably know the phrase about Ginger Rogers did everything Fred Astaire did, just backwards and in heels. And there still is a double standard, and it is still harder for women not only to win elected office, but as my friend Dr. Kate Graham has demonstrated, women don't get second chances. We have never re-elected a female first minister in this country. And that is, in many ways, proof positive of the fact that there is tolerance for mediocre white men that women and racialized people or gender diverse people don't get to benefit from. So I think this is an important way to emphasize heading into next year's municipal elections that women don't start on an equal playing field, but we're getting there. Secondly, it talks about respect, and we can have harsh debates and be tough and call each other out, but going along to get along is complicity, not leadership. And we're elected to hold political office. You'd never tell a medical doctor that they're too medical. So all of us being politicians are here to be political, but we have to do it respectfully with regards to our staff, with regards to the public, and with regards to each other. So tough debate is part of democracy, and even harsh criticism, but there is a line, and I think we all know it when we see it. So this is an important resolution. I believe Marianne Mead Ward from Burlington, the Mayor of Burlington, is behind this, and other female representatives from Halton Region, and I think they put some key issues on the table, and it's a very timely resolution given what we're seeing in democracies across the world right now with democratic backsliding. And the fact that municipal politics is, I think, still the most collaborative, the most collegial. We work together to solve problems. We can have debates at the table and then walk out and have a beer afterwards. That's the kind of tone that we want to keep. And I think we also recognize that there is more to do for, well, frankly, people who don't look like me.
Thank you. Okay, next I've got Councillor Dehaney and then Councillor Giordano.
Thank you, Mayor. Definitely, I will support this and endorse it 100%. Being the only woman on council, of course, oftentimes person asks, how is it? How do you do it? But I want to encourage women out there, because next year is election. And let me tell you something. Yes, it can be challenging at times. And as I mentioned before, do not shun away from challenges. Some of them are easier to overcome, and some of them are harder. Yes, there are going to be harassment. Yes, there are going to be intimidations, right? Yes, there will be minimizing, because, sometimes they will minimize you, but you have to stand tall. And I want to encourage you, do not allow any of this to discourage you from running at all, because guess what? You are there for a reason. You belong there, right? And it's not going to be easy, and nothing is going to be easy at all. But you have to know why you're doing it in the first place. So I can tell you, being in this seat, I love sitting in the hot seat all the time because it can be hot sometimes. But nothing can discourage me from supporting my community. And how do I do it? There's this song that I always sing. Nobody's gonna take my stride. Nobody's gonna hold me down. Oh no, I gotta keep on moving. That's how you get to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was great. Councilor Giordano.
I only sing when I have a guitar in my hand, so I won't be singing. Two things. So number one, it's great that we're all going to accept and endorse this, but it's what we actually apply to ourselves that matters the most. At the end of the day, one line that the reason why I want to also support this is there's one line that's in here that's very important to me, which is also not only to reject but to call out harassment. And what that means is that when people sit idle and don't act, that's equally as bad as the act itself. So just be mindful, everyone. Now, the other thing is when I'm reading all of this, right now in society, we have a lot of issues where it's no longer okay to have a different opinion. And if you have a difference of opinion, if it's fact-based and you back it up with information and you're doing it with, you know, whether it's facts and experiences and everything else, people turn around and say, oh, well, that's just because you don't agree with me. Well, you're a racist or you're misogynistic or you're this and that. And that's not the case. As a father of two daughters, I remind my daughters all the time, I said, you need to work hard to be an equal. You may not always get the feeling that you're an equal, but you can't blame somebody for not treating you as an equal if they disagree with you. Disagreements is very healthy, and we need to make sure that when you disagree with intelligent facts and you do it with respect for each other, that's acceptable. So part of this motion, it's kind of a little bit one-sided, but there's missing that healthy debate. That healthy debate is so important for people to understand that it's okay to disagree if it's factually based, and you can't call somebody out for something just because you don't agree with them. And this is, especially social, somebody mentioned social media earlier. That's what happens all the time. It's like, well, this is so-and-so. Well, because of that, you're this. No, that's not how it works. I brought this factual piece of information, and that is information as well. So again, with this, I always get a little bit weary because number one, are we signing this just to check something off our list and say, I feel good because I signed this? Number one, we got to practice what we preach, and we got to practice what we endorse.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further comments? I'll just comment, yeah, that I'm 100% in support of this, and I want to thank the Halton elected, the Halton elected representatives for fighting for rights of women and all sorts of different genders, because that's what it's all about. It's about making sure that everybody has a voice, an equal voice at the table. And so I've sat with Marianne Weed and others from Halton, and they did do a great service at AMO by showing that there is a lot out there that women go through, and it's disappointing to see. And I hope that this will be the start to help more women get involved, because it is better for more women around the table. It gives a great diverse opinion. We all have different opinions, and we need that opinion from all different genders and ethnicities. So, okay, so I'm fully in support of this also. So, seeing no further comments, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we're into 12, staff reports. We have 12.1, the Bradford Public Square 2025 season reports. A recommendation that report REC 2025-8, titled Bradford BWG Public Square 2025 season report, be received for information. Move in second to put this on the floor. Moved by Councillor Scott, seconded by Councillor Dehaney. Question concerns with this report? It was brought up. You want to? Okay, go ahead.
I agree with the comments from Ms. Sinclair. Can we have a little bit more of a marketing push? I'm getting nods. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Dehaney, you had something? Go ahead.
Great report, by the way, but I just have a quick question. I'm trying to find it where it says when you get the application, you give them several weeks before. How long is several weeks?
Thank you for your question. Can you just clarify when they submit an application and is referring to several weeks?
Trying to look to see if it was step 3 or 1. Hold on. Jonathan, can you look quickly in section 1?
In the report, it does talk about when it's submitted, the report is submitted, or the application is submitted, would take several weeks to review. So just maybe you're looking for an answer on what you mean by several weeks.
Sorry, so that's step 2. Was it step 2?
Yes, thank you. So once an applicant submits their application, staff need to review it. So several weeks would be 2 to 3 weeks. An application that's an event that is maybe a repeat event and less than 500 people and has less components to it could be reviewed a lot quicker. If I reach out to various departments and they have more questions and there's a lot more going back and forth, or it's a larger event of over 1,000 people, it's brand new, that's where it could take, longer, like 3 weeks.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure because I know that few organizers were saying the process is long, right? And again, as you explained, depends on the event and the amount of people that are attending the event. And of course, every event is different. So that's why I wanted to know how long will this process take. So basically, you're looking at 90 days, you got to submit at least 90 days if you know you have an event coming up. Submit it within 90 days, and then after you submit your application, you have to wait another 3 weeks basically to get back. Perfect.
That's correct. And it's 90 days from the event date, not 90 days for approval. This past year being the first year, every new event, the report came to council to approve, and so having that component added the timeline to people getting their events approved, and so that wouldn't be a hindrance for most events moving forward in 2026.
All right, I have Councillor Giordano and I have Deputy Mayor next.
Okay, so going through this report, first of all, it's appreciative because it's a brand new town square, and to have a brand new space that's very different than all of our other spaces, it's great. As somebody that actually had an event with the staff, I had to actually run through with the team. It was quite a challenge because it's not as easy as just renting a room. There's a lot of components to this and everything else. I appreciate some of the steps moving forward as well because, again, it's not. You can make this very complicated for an event. You can make it very simple depending on the type of application. I did find that the town staff was extremely effective in working with us. And to be honest with you, I think everyone was learning from each other throughout this process. But let me tell you, as a counselor, I'm looking at how many events took place in the first year, considering this thing just got built, in late spring, just before summer. I just want to say congratulations to everyone involved because it was a great season. And those are a whole bunch more events that we didn't have.
Yes, good comments. Thank you. Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Sandu.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Giordano, you're right. 21 events since we had our grand opening in June 2025. 12 town events and 9 third-party events. I'm also happy to read in the report that staff, through third-party surveys, looking at improving the ways and the process to make it easier, because that was one of the things that was recognized and pointed out that our process is a little bit harder or cumbersome. There's a couple of things that I want to point out. It's not a showstopper, but it should be looked at and maybe corrected. Some documents attached, like welcome package, talks about calendar days, whereas the guide talks about the business days. So it's which one is it, right? That needs to be looked at. Inflatable equipment policy, we say it's not allowed. Then in the other guide, it says it might be considered, but the insurance policy might be $5 million versus $2 million. We have to have a clear policy whether it's admitted or not, and if it is admitted, which part of the equipment is admitted. That has to be cleared so there's no guessing or confusion later on for people that are trying to book it. The rental fees, they need to be properly clarify, they talk about setup and cleanup, but it does not talk about anything after the event, whether it's waste handling or over staff time after hours and stuff. So those are some of the stuff that I picked up while I was reading the different documents that are attached. There could be others, I don't, but this is just a small, minor things that as we go through the events, we should correct these, and I want to thank you and rest of the team. It is well-used town square. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I have Councillor Dyken and Councillor Harper.
I too would like to say I thank you for the report. It's very well written, and I think as we move forward with this this popular and well-used square, we will continue to learn more. As I'm sure the workload is quite a bit when it comes to managing this square. I hope that I think as the years come, I know we have to market this and it could be used that much more, but at the end of the day, we have to look at the financial budget, what it costs. You have your financial numbers laid out for usage rates, but at the end of the day, it's there's a big cost to having such a prime location. But we have to make sure that we can benefit for our municipality, and I think the people really enjoyed it. It's going to be well used and well used in the future. I just hope that it continues to stay clean and well managed, and that we have the staff to administrate it. And I look forward to many events, because last summer was exciting, and this year and years to come there will be more excitement. The sad thing is when it comes to when you get into a recession or downturn in the economy at some stage, the sponsorship gets harder to get, and I'm sure between CarFest and different events, and even the different dealers that sponsor the different events, the funds they're there, but then they're not as available during a tougher time. So, but I'd like to congratulate your staff, Bethany, on this report and all the work that went into this and writing it also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harper?
Thanks, Mayor. I have two questions. If a small vendor or participant would like to, or a community group, local artist, or wanted to rent the public square for a brief activation period, say 2 or 3 hour engagements, or like a morning, whatever, what policy or rate structure allows them to do that without being forced into an 8-hour minimum rental fee? Or is the town currently only discouraging short-term use through its pricing model?
Thank you, Councillor Harper. So there's 2 different timeframes that are approved in the user fee bylaw. There's the 8-hour and the 12-hour, and these fees include setup and teardown. And so if someone was doing a 3 or 4 hour event, they'd be looking at the 8-hour rental.
Right, so you just expressed my concern that there really is no short-term use without someone having to actually do an 8-hour minimum. So given that current framework, it only provides half-day or full-day rental options. So what if someone didn't really need to bring a lot of materials or equipment to set up? The intent of council's event strategy and this town square, in my understanding, was to empower the community participation, build local capacity, not restrict it through cost barriers. I understand that this pricing model really talks about large events. Fair. What about short term? What about community engagement groups? There's nothing that addresses that in here, and without really any clear communication. I'd like to ask staff to review the fee structure or bring back some kind of amendment that addresses that short-term use instead of the 8-hour, half-day, or the 12-hour. Because there's a lot of space there. It can be used for other things. So maybe an hourly rate, or maybe what if they don't need to set up huge rigging or whatever, and they want to just have something there? The more community, yoga is great. Yeah, sure. There's a lot of ideas, I'm sure. But if we could get that brought back to council in regards to what that might look like, I think that this has been a great year. I don't want to deter from that because it just opened up in June and it already looks like it was a full lineup of activities. And we got to kick start and kick back off some of the town events that we had before, music in the park, success, movies in the square, I guess you call it. But I think there's more growth that we can expand to and see what that next step looks like.
You want to comment on that, or?
Yes, staff will review that and we will bring something forward for budget deliberations for the user fee bylaw.
Further comments? Okay. Okay, nobody else? I'll go back to Councillor Giordano again.
Yeah, to Councillor Harper, my only concern, bring this back to staff, is the point of the square was not to make it a place where people can book for birthday parties and to have all these small events taking it, because if you have a larger scale production, it requires a half day or full day or multiple day bookings. And if you have people taking up all those spots with a 1 or 2 hour slots, that's very low cost. It takes a lot of resources for staff and everyone else. So to bring it back to staff and ask for it, yes, but that's taken away from actual original concept of what the square was designed to do. I don't agree. I do agree that maybe we could look at other alternatives, like if we want to have a community, like, you know, maybe a community time slot, you know, once a month or something like that, where some community groups maybe can go into it, you know, for an hour each hour, and, you know, no setup, or we have a standard PA system and everyone kind of dials in, and we can give maybe a community day one day if it's not booked. But I don't think I want to open up the fee structure from what we already agreed on to start allowing and diverting from the original concept of what the town square was designed to do.
What's that? You want to comment? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Giordano. I agree with that. You know, there's probably room for improvement here. I don't want to deter away from the large pricing or the large event strategies that's been presented to us, but I do think that there is room for growth here. Having only one day maybe committed to it, but a lot of these, and correct me if I'm wrong, to the staff here, that these events are already pre-planned well beyond or well in advance. So we'll be able to slot smaller things in between here and there. That's a question, sorry.
No, I think that was a good debate, and I actually think I like Councillor Giordano's idea about a community day. Maybe that's something. So I know staff is listening to the conversation, they're hearing it, and they'll be able to review that, and through the budget and through their moving forward in the future, they might find a way to do that where we can bring in some smaller opportunities for people to do some cost-effective events in our community that don't tie up our square when it's, I think it is officially for more larger events. So I think staff got the conversation, and they can certainly review that and come up with new ideas. It is brand new. It's we had a great first season, a great kickoff with it. With, I think somebody said 21 events we had, so wonderful to see that. And I look forward to next year probably exceeding that, because it'll be our first full year with it. So it's going to be exciting to see this square take off. So you had a comment, Councillor Ferragini? Go ahead.
Thank you. Bethany, do you know, with our facilities, some of the halls that we have that we rent out, do we rent them out by the hour, or are they only rented by the evening, or whatever the case may be?
Thank you, Councillor Ferragini. I don't actually know. I think there's a minimum.
2 to 4 hours? Okay.
I think there's some, once every 7, I think you can rent some of the rooms, but they're just rooms by an hour, so. Facilities, yeah. I don't think there's that 1 hour thing. It's a minimum, like I said, 2 to 4 or whatever, so. That would be a question given to our bookings folks. They'd know that. Okay, great debate. Good, and again, a great report. Thank you, Bethany, for that, and great success so far with that square. So I will call for the vote. We have a mover, seconder, correct? Yeah. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, we're on to 12.2, authority to sign the Canadian funding agreement for the Lake Simcoe phosphorus reduction plant. I have a recommendation that Council received report DCAO 2025-9, and the council authorized the mayor and clerk to sign the Canadian payment agreement for the Lake Simcoe Phosphorus Reduction Project with the Federal Ministry of Housing and Infrastructure. Mover second to put this on the floor. Moved by Councillor Scott, seconded by Councillor Ferragini. Questions and concerns to start? Councillor Scott?
I'll just comment to say that this is good news to secure the federal funding that will help us deliver the facility. I understand we're going through detailed design and site selection now, but reducing phosphorus pollution into the Holland River and Lake Simcoe is one of our most tangible, practical ways to protect our local environment, and seeing all three levels of government working together with our municipality as the lead for this project that will benefit the whole watershed is great news and a great achievement of the last two councils.
Councillor Ferragini?
No, I echo the comments. At the end of the day, you know, the phosphorus has been an issue to Lake Simcoe, and we want to make sure that we can do our part and as much as we can do to help keep our lake safe and our drinking water clean. So it's very, very important. I'm happy to see this actually come forward, and the funding has been put forward by the federal government. So it'll be good to see when this actually comes to fruition and how we go about it. I'm looking forward to the next steps ahead.
Further comments? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to echo the same comments as the others. Happy to see this move forward, but there is one item that I would like staff to clarify. I remember from the beginning when we started talking about it, we always talked about who's going to be left holding the bag afterwards. There's a line in this report or the attachment that says the town does not show a capital share in the cost share table, but it must absorb overruns, ineligible costs, and all future operating and maintenance, and protect any acquired land for 40 years. That I'm worried about.
Deputy CAO.
Through you, Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor. That agreement is on the federal government side. On the provincial government side, what we've got from them is a commitment to cover the operating costs and a commitment to cover, essentially saying that Bradford will not incur any of those costs. There's also in the project planning, there have been conversations that we've got an upset limit in terms of the budget, and our job now as implementing agency is to ensure that we bring this project, as much of it within the scope, under that budget. And that is the plan at this point in time, to ensure that the town does not incur those costs that the federal government is saying there. If I were to summarize that, the federal government is essentially saying that they will not cover those overruns and that Bradford needs to have a way. Our way was to have the province agree to cover the operating costs.
Okay. Councillor Harper.
That's a good point you brought up, because in this contract or agreement, there is a clause in there that says that if Canada changes government or decides to cancel this, or if the province decides to cancel it, that the town has to find other sourcing means. They can scale it down at any time. They can cut it off at any time. If the government changes order, it can be canceled at any time. What does that leave then, this phosphorus reduction plant then? Just to sit there without funding? Where's that contingency? I know we're really hanging our hat out and saying thank you for the money. You know where I'm getting with this?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor. The Canada portion of the agreement is to fund the 40% of the total costs. Canada will not have, or does not at this point, intend to have a share of the operating costs. And let's go back to what I said earlier. The other funding arrangement that we did bring forward early in the year spoke to the provincial aspect of it and the provincial commitments. And that portion speaks to the operating costs. So what happens if the federal government decides, once we've got an agreement with them that's been signed, it is a contractual agreement for the 16 million. There are contractual obligations on both sides. And I think that should hold some legal weight going forward. Beyond that, in terms of the operating, as I said, Canada has not committed to funding the operating. That's on the provincial side.
Further follow-up?
Thank you for those comments. I agree with you in part that, you know, it's great that we're getting the funding Canada-wide, province-wide, but I'm going to put my legal hat on here. When I read that, it says Canada is not liable, and they're protected. The town would be fully responsible for completing the project if we choose to, and managing any shortfall. So there's no safety net or automatic replacement funding if the province or the federal government changes course. I just want to highlight that. I like that we're getting the funding. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of this. Like, we would have to either find alternative funding, scale down or pause the project, or put it on the taxpayers. So there's no, like, it's not for free. It is right now, but there is no safety net put in place in this agreement. I just want to highlight that.
You want to comment further?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Harper. As I said, this is the federal government's portion of the agreement. On the provincial side, there's a safety net in terms of operating costs. We've spoken about that our responsibility is to bring this project in as much as we can of the scope under the available funding. I'm not going to speak to potential for increases in funding or other sources of funding. It's to bring as much of the scope in under the 40 million. That's the plan at this point. You did mention what happens if, for some reason, both levels of government decides to renege on their agreement. That's essentially what you're asking. As I said, these are legal contracts. I'm sure there's going to be avenues under that. But assuming that you can't enforce that, I don't expect I don't expect me to bring this to you and say, put it on to the taxpayers.
Yes, thank you for that. I see this a little bit, the $16 million that the feds are giving. This is more of a provincial project anyways, the phosphorus. It's more of a provincial and municipal project, so that's why we have the safety net with the province, basically to cover any overruns. And the feds are just kind of committing $16 million to this project. It goes back to when the feds committed $40 million to clean Lake Simcoe, and so this is part of that funding sort of coming through the system, because we didn't receive that $40 million from the federals to clean that Lake Simcoe. So this kind of is one of these ways that they can say, here's $16 million. The real responsibility is with the province, so we'll rely on the province making sure that this goes through, but certainly we appreciate the feds coming to the table and putting $60 million to help clean up Lake Simcoe, and quite thrilled that we're going to do this, and I'm looking forward to do our part as a municipality and help support Lake Simcoe and clean it up if we can to reduce phosphorus into Lake Simcoe. So it's good for everyone. But good questions, good analysis of reading the report and making sure that you ask those questions, so appreciate that very much. Further comments from anybody? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Okay, we're on to 13. We have requests for staff reports. I'll turn it over to you, Councillor Harper. I heard earlier.
Thank you, Mayor, and bear with me, colleagues. I do have three staff reports, 3 different scenarios to ask for your indulgence here. The first one comes from my community access networking meeting that was held September 27th. It came through a collective ideas and thought that there was a request to do a pilot for a physical communications board in each of the wards. And I'd like to probably try to run a pilot communications board where people could come to the board and physically see what events are happening from the town, how to get in touch with your counselor, and any other type of community engagements and stuff. There's a select, we have been really diligent at pushing a lot of electronics and like social media and stuff like that virtually or electronically throughout this term. And we've moved away from any type of hardscaping physical kind of communication. The Connected did come out, but after a recommendation that people wanted to see a physical copy. So my ask would be for a staff report to come back and how do we do this? And if it's successful through the pilot, that each counselor would have their own area that would be a communications board that you could highlight or bring people that don't have access to social media or electronics. They could keep engaged with what's happening in the community. So I'd like to ask for that one. Do I just go one at a time, Mayor, or want to go all three?
Council, I would say do all three of your requests, and then if we need to break them apart because we don't have full support, we can work to that. But if everybody wants to support all three, we're good to go.
Perfect. The next one's going to be a more of a engineering feasibility and traffic one for Essa Road and Fletcher. Essa Road is one of the older streets here in Bradford, West Gwillimbury. It sits on a kind of an awkward state of a hill, but it doesn't have any sidewalks. Yet it is located in our downtown core, and you know, presumably, like a lot of our population has aged over the last decades, and they still like to walk around their neighborhoods, walk their dogs, walk with their families, and we want to participate and encourage people to actively walk. So I'd like to have a feasibility report from staff to see what it would take to add in sidewalks on Essa Road, and at the same time the traffic study to implement a stop sign at Essa Road and Fletcher. And then the third request is going to be, there was a gap in what I discovered in regards to ADUs. And this came from planning, that I believe I'd like to see if a staff report on creating a bylaw for planning to actually incorporate and update the process regarding ADUs or lot severances. When they sever lots or put in ADUs, they only focus the concern on the house that the property sits on or the adjacent houses, and doesn't take into consideration of the area or the street in regards to it. And some of these streets have had lot severances, or they've been build-ups where they've changed them into townhouses and have allowed only for parking there, but didn't incorporate what the effects would do to the whole neighborhood. So I'd like for us to create that bylaw, or see if that's feasible, to create a bylaw for planning to incorporate an area dynamic and what that would do to the landscape surrounding the area. I'm not against the ADUs per se or the lot severances, but I do believe that if you buy a house here and you've lived here 20 years, then your neighbor comes in, buys a house, but splits it and adds 2 townhouses, rents the upstairs, the downstairs on both sides. You now have 8 neighbors and you have 12 cars, but you've lived there for 20 years. That drastically changes your living experience, and I think we need to incorporate that in our planning. That is why I've asked you for that staff report.
Can I just ask one question? You said the stop sign at Essa and Fletcher? Essa doesn't meet Fletcher, I don't think. Frederick? That's what I thought. Okay. So Essa and Frederick, not Fletcher. Okay. No, I was thinking that. Okay. So the 3 reports, we have 3 requests for reports. So I'll just ask for comments on these from council, and then we'll find out how we're going to do this for voting. I've got, first I've got Councilor Ferragini, and then I've got Councilor Giordano.
So the 3 requests I'm fine with. Your second request is more of a TMS Strategic Initiative Committee request. So I don't know if we'll be doing it here or that should be handled at our next SIC committee meeting. But I'm okay with the 3 requests.
Councilor Giordano?
Yeah, so I definitely support the ADU initiative, because this is the problems that we're having across this town. Is we're trying to live up to a provincial mandate, and it's a little too microscopic. We have to look a little bit wider to see how it's really affecting all the neighbors in the neighborhood. Yeah, I agree with Councilor Ferragini that this should probably come to our what do we call it now? Our strategic projects committee. The only problem is we just canceled it. So the whole point of our traffic and safety committee was that we would meet monthly. We could address things like this. Now we got to wait months for the next meeting whenever it comes down the road. The other thing that's kind of frustrating with it is this is an older subdivision, is this not? This is like a 30, 35, 40-year-old subdivision. Huh? 150-year-old? So what happened with all the other councils over the last 100-something years? Nobody could put a sidewalk in? Like it's this council that has to do it? It's frustrating.
Yeah, you can respond to that. Why not?
In regards to number 2, I would be okay that it reports back to the Strategic Initiatives Committee. Just knowing that the committee was canceled for next week, I just didn't want to leave it off the list, as I've gotten several requests from multiple residents, especially the ones that attended the Community Access Network meeting. I'd like to make sure that I just live up to the promise of delivering results for them. But I would be more than happy for it to come back to the Strategic Initiatives Committee for number 2.
The report come back to this, we call it the SIC committee. SIC committee, SIC, right? So Strategic Initiatives Committee, which has the transportation and the projects combined. Okay, so that's where you want the report to go back to?
Number 2.
Yeah, just the number 2 one. Okay. Okay, that's fine. So nobody has any issues with the 3 reports? Councillor,
I just want to interject. I agree with number 3. I think that I know we're under a mandate from the province, and I know we need to intensification in the areas of town. But I too, come from a ward where there's premium lots, and people buy in premium lots to enjoy those premium lots. And I just hope that maybe staff can come back and be open-minded and come back with some kind of report or analyze the situation, because I've seen this coming years ago that, as land costs are high and there's opportunity to put ADUs and start splitting 1 lot, 2 lots, it's a business as well. But it's when you're a neighbor being affected, when a planning application comes in, they have a certain criteria in that evaluation by how it affects you when you provide something new in the Planning Act. So I would hope that staff would come back and address it at some level. So I support the 3rd one, and I will vote in favor for all 3 and bring it back to the SIC committee, call it, but I support it.
We like to use our acronyms all the time, so. Okay, so we have these 3 reports on the table, and we need a seconder, so. We got a seconder. I've got Councillor Dykey that wants to second it, so. Okay, so we have those 3. We have a seconder. All in favor of the 3 reports? Yeah, we're doing this one. So that passed. Sorry, we have that passed. So any further staff reports? Councillor Giordano.
Perfect. So I have a staff report. It's I'm asking to detail the Committee of Adjustments, our actual council, Strategic Projects Committee, the Library Board, or any other compensated committee for both open and closed or in-camera sessions for attendance. And it should be detailed from October to September over the last 3 years. And in addition, it should be also dealt with every September from then on moving forward. At the end of the day, these are positions that should have accountability for our attendance, and I think it's important and transparent for the public to see that.
Okay, so that's asking for attendance records for committees that are compensated, correct? You're saying compensation? Compensated, yeah? Yeah. I'm not sure. We'll leave it with staff, so here, we've asked staff for that report. Okay, did you get that? Okay, so a seconder for that then to put the, okay, comments or questions on the report? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Any further staff reports requested for tonight? Okay, they're going to be busy. Thank you. All right, we're done with that. Then we're on to section 14. We'll move into committee whole. Recommendation that council resolve itself into committee whole at 7:59. Mover to seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Verkijk. All in favor? Carried. Deputy, I turn it over to you. If somebody wants to, you can ask if they want to break or not.
Thank you, Your Worship. Colleagues, you want to continue or have a... Great, perfect. All right, I call this meeting to order at 8 p.m. Any declaration of pecuniary interest and the general nature? Okay, none declared. You can declare if the item comes up, and let's get into staff reports. 15.3.1, Winter Operations Plan, recommendation that report TR 2025-26 titled 2025-26 Winter Operations Plan be received for information. Moving to seconded, please. Councillor Faragini. Councillor Dehaney, seconded. Okay. Any questions or comments? Simple as annual plan that we do. There's minor changes as we add more roads or sidewalks. They get added on. Councillor Faragini, you had your hand up. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. No, I'm in support of receiving the report. Just want to thank the staff and just prepare for the winter. I know it's a tough job, getting up all hours of the morning and taking care of the roads. I know last year was really bad. Years before that, it's been pretty easy. We've been let off pretty easy, but just ask all the residents to be patient when it comes to winters like we had last year. As soon as staff can get to it, staff gets to it. So I feel that they do an excellent job, and I just want to thank the staff again for the work that they put into this.
Thank you for those comments, and you are right. And we know there's many times where staff works the maximum number of hours they're allowed to work in a shift, and then they go for the whatever they're allowed to rest period and come back and go at it again. So thank you to each and every one of you. Councillor Kite, go ahead.
Just a comment on Route 3 with regards to Bond Head. I don't see that. I see houses being built in the northeast quadrant. I don't see any plow that being added to that plow route.
Okay, who is going to take this? Mr. Coleman, you or someone else? Coming up, thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening. To Councillor Vertkijk, through you, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Sandu. Actually, that came through today for winter maintenance for those roads through the development.
Okay. Follow up, Councillor Vertkijk. Okay. Mayor Leduc.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe, while I've got you up here, just a quick question. I was looking at our winter hours, and we talk about our patrols and our patrolling, you know, when we do in the winters, and we do them, I think in the summers, you do them year-round, I think, patrols. It just says it during regular working hours. I'm just wondering, can you clarify that? Do we do early morning patrols? Do we get out, like, is their regular working hour start at whatever time and finish whatever time? So I'm just trying to figure it out for clarity.
To the Mayor, through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, we do patrols during regular shift hours. So we start at 4 a.m. in the morning and end at 3:30 in the afternoon. So there's two shifts that go, and we have shifts on the weekend where we have coverage doing patrols as well.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that it started at 4 a.m. That's what I was concerned with. So thank you. Very good. Great report. It's a live document, living document. It's been done since 2015. I think we started this document. So thank you very much. And it's got lots of detail in there. I didn't realize how much equipment we actually have. It's quite an extensive list at the end of the report. So interesting to read that.
And when we have Touch a Truck event, all of our equipment, it's a hit when kids and adults come up and look at it. Councillor Dyke, go ahead, please.
Well, I too just want to echo what other councillors around this table said. Joe and your team, Kevin, and everybody in the Works Department, you know, when we get hit with that first snowfall or a big snowfall, it's a lot of work. And you know, as this town has expanded, last night when I sat down to read this report and look at all the streets that we have grown, I must say that this Works Department has quite a project to maintain and do all the snow in this municipality. And it's not easy, and it's very expensive to have all this equipment. And as we grow, like I said, it's challenging. And we're lucky that we have, you know, and have the resources to do it. And you guys have always done a great job. I'm sure there's times when we get blasted with a big storm that's very hard on staff to keep up. But I just want to congratulate you guys on a fine job to date, and looking forward to see what this winter comes with. So thank you, Joe, and your crew. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harper?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr. Coleman, thank you very much for the report. I do have a question for you, two in concern. One is about communication. If we learned anything last year, that there was quite heavy snowfalls that we had that was quite intense. In regards to the communication, I was pleased that we were given updates. Is there any plan for us, though, to increase some of those updates to let residents know when we have like emergency states? Like, I don't know if you guys realize, but one of the snowfalls was pretty much like a snow squall or the equivalent of a hurricane in regards to snow. It shut down a lot of roads. People couldn't get out of driveways. I was going around with my snowblower helping people get out of driveways just to help them get out. A lot of concerns that I got from residents is they didn't know when their street was going to be hit. Is there a way or a term of like letting people know a list or where we're at in it, which areas will be next, or what a timeline that can be produced when these things come up? You have a pretty detailed plan and you guys pretty much follow the plan, but couldn't we communicate the timeline publicly as well, since we know that where we're at? Because like, hey, this is where we're at, a little bit slower because of yada yada yada, snow, salt, slow, whatever, or issues with equipment. We'll be at this area coming in the next few hours, just to get people going, and then councillors can help communicate that as well. Is that something we could look at?
Yes, Councillor Harper, through the Deputy Mayor. We do have a robust plan where we send out Facebook posts and alike, telling residents we're getting to certain types of streets. We could do that more periodically. This last snowstorm was, you're referring to the February snowstorm. It actually lasted 12 days. And we were out there every single day, and we were constantly posting. We cleared arterials, went collectors, now we're into local roads, and then we turn around and start again.
Go ahead.
And like I said, I understand arterials and collector roads and all these other roads, but the average resident didn't understand, and I would spend more time trying to explain what an arterial road was or a collector road was to them instead of saying where exactly they are. Or so I know maybe if we could get something a little bit more detailed, or even mentioning we're in the vicinity of this intersection or this area now. I don't know, maybe just that type of communication. I'm just trying to relay an idea. But thank you very much for that. I respected that and appreciated it. When I'm looking at the sidewalk plow, Route 2 on page 66, it shows that the sidewalks at Compton Crescent, Fletcher, and Northgate are going to be plowed, but it doesn't update showing that Bill Marks Trail will be plowed. And I know that we had incorporated it later last year into the fall or in the winter because it was just completed and it was opened up, I believe, halfway through the winter. Could we incorporate that into this and get that updated?
Through Councillor Harper, through Councillor Sandu. Yes, of course, we can add it to Route 2 for the, when it comes to council, we'll take your comments under advisement and put them into the report. And bring, when it comes to council, you can take a look at it and ensure it's still there and pass the report for the second reading.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cole.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Coleman. With that, all in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. All right, moving on. Recommendation. That report PLN 2025. Give me 1 second here. That report PLN 2025-50 regarding adoption of the official plan amendment for Part 1 intensification first growth management strategy to official plan to 2051 be received, and that Council accept and endorse the contents of the report PLN 2025-50 regarding the recommended effect of the written submissions received and the oral submissions made at the public meeting of September 9th, 2025 on Council's decision, and that the official plan amendments for the Part 1 growth management strategy be adopted for 1, intensification of lands located within settlement area boundaries, 2, the major transit station area and Bridge Street corridor, 3, Highway 400 employment lands, and 4, the employment land removal criteria, and that staff present the necessary bylaws for adoption of the official plan amendments at its next available meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder to put on the floor, please? Councillor Dehaney, Councillor Giordano. Okay, I'm just going to get into questions and answers, and if there's need be, we'll go into it. Okay, Councillor Giordano, go ahead.
Deputy Mayor, you may have to come back to me after. I just want to kick something off, and then we'll go from there. Since this report came out, I read through it. It's pretty extensive, but also I've had many members of the that attended the public meeting that came and reached out to me, and they were saying that, and I felt this the same way. I felt like we gave a lot of feedback, and it's not reflected in this report. So that's number one. Number two, I question, are we serious about the transformation of the downtown core? And if we are, why are we hindering the heights of the projects? There's no incentive for people to transform the downtown area. It's not feasible. People can sit on their properties as is. You need to have those extra floors to make it not only feasible, but to add a true transformation. You put the population downtown to where the public transit is, close to the GO train. Don't even get me started about the GO train area. We're building a town hall on swampland that's 4 stories, and then we're not really allowing anybody else. Leave the engineering to the engineers. The engineering can definitely build there if they want to, but it's not in our plan. So we're now driving we're trying to put all the higher buildings closer to the middle of town, so they have to commute all the way through town to get to the transit in the downtown area. So those are some of the areas that I'm a little bit concerned with, but I'll throw that out there first, let everybody else comment, and maybe I'll chime back in at the end.
Okay. Councillor Verkuyk.
Hey, I have 2 items.
Sorry,
first,
just because you said you want to come back, then I'm going to get them to address your answers at that time. Because you can't, you wanted it addressed at that time. I asked, you said you wanted to wait till it comes back. So let's do that. Councillor Verkuyk.
I keep seeing this, the Bridge Street corridor. Further reports and studies need to be done to see what can be done about the floodplain and further development. Do we have plans on doing those studies, or is it just, okay, we're just going to park it and not do anything for the next 20, 30 years?
Go ahead, Mr. Weep.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Councillor Verkuyk. Since receiving the direction from Council through the modified resolution at the public meeting, staff have done some research into the requirements of that, and we'll be making a future capital project budget submission to Council for consideration.
Thanks, because I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth in that area, especially because it's right next to the train station. And if we don't allow any residential from Dissette to the end of Bridge Street, it's kind of a lost opportunity. So I think those reports would be definitely valuable. My second point, I keep seeing complete community 17 times. And how would you define complete community? And then I'll have a follow-up.
Through the Deputy Mayor to the Councillor. The definition of complete communities is defined in the provincial planning statement. which indicates it means places such as mixed-use neighborhoods or other areas within cities, towns, or settlement areas that offer and support opportunities for equitable access to many necessities for daily living for people of all ages and abilities, including an appropriate mix of jobs and a full range of housing and transportation, etc. So you're providing that full suite of opportunities for people to have a full life cycle in that community. Thank you.
So then when development occurs, we don't seem to be getting a passing grade on that, because I think of the south end of Bradford, Green Valley, and all that whole area. There's no retail south of Holland Street. So we've definitely failed in the last 30 years of planning. And also Bond Head. It's definitely a failing grade there. I think anything that we do in those two areas, we need to include commercial, some type of commercial to make them complete communities. And I think that needs to be a definite, important strategic priority.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Weeb.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Councillor Verkuyk. Certainly, as we've previously provided through prior staff reports with the growth management project, the county of Simcoe estimated that the town would need roughly an extra 1,100 acres of new community area lands. That's anticipated to require one or more secondary plans. And those projects will be an opportunity for council and the community to strive for and designate the land uses that would provide that type of distribution through consultation, through future council decisions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Daikie?
I just want to jump in and say that, as other colleagues mentioned around this table, you know, we need to listen to the public. We need to listen to consultants. There's a lot of valuable information that was given at these public meetings that we need to study. And I agree with Bread Street. You need a secondary study on that. There's a great opportunity. That's a gateway coming into our community. And then if there's no incentive to do anything on Bridge Street, it's going to stay like that. And for many 20 years, 10 years, 30 years, if there's no opportunity presented in that area, it will remain as it is. So we need mixed use, residential. We have a golden egg, and that's our GO station. So whatever we intensify, and I'm looking long term. I can see this 2030, 2051 realistically, as other municipalities, Thornhill, Aurora, Newmarket, how they have developed is coming to Bradford. There's no doubt about it. But there has to be that incentive. There has to be that opportunity. And you have to provide that opportunity, and you have to incentivize somehow by stories, like Joe mentioned, 6 stories, 8 stories. You have to provide some kind of incentive, because if you have to come in and fight your way to go from 4 stories to 10 stories, and just it's difficult. So you have to really look at this. I see a great opportunity when it comes to the downtown. When it comes to the Four Corners, not right downtown, but by the GO station. There's the concrete factory. There's the other lumber yard that could great opportunities and will present himself. But we have to be ready. And then this document is part of this planning process. So and it has to be looked at every 10 years. But as it's really sad to see this economy take such a change and a fast pace of stopping, because you see in Toronto the housing market, how we have too many condos, so there's too much. There's so much has been built, and everything's prices have dropped in 35 years, and it's gonna be a while. It could be many years to come, but we're ready. You have your documents, but you just listen to everybody, and we have to do our best to provide those opportunities for a mixed quality lifestyle.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harper, then Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I do have a couple of direct questions I'd like to ask planning, if possible. We're talking about the Holland Street West SGA Area 2. That starts at Four Corners all the way to Professor Day. So that's west of that. I can just get clarification. That's what we're talking about?
Certainly. Through you, Deputy Mayor Sandu, to Councillor Harper. Yes, the Holland Street West mixed-use corridor is proposed indeed to extend from, sorry, I can't recall the easterly boundary off the top of my head now, all the way up to the Side Road 10 right-of-way at the westerly limit.
Area 2, though, is just Professor Dave to Four Corners.
Yes.
Okay. And anywhere in Area 2, is any of those buildings along Holland Street designated heritage?
Oh, certainly. If I can have a moment to look that up, I'll be pleased to follow up.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Councillor Harper. Yes, there are some properties within the strategic growth area that are listed on the town's heritage registry as candidate sites, but not designated from what I see in our mapping.
So none of them are, there's no official heritage on Holland Street in Area 2 right now. And when the recommendation, like my colleague presented, which was to bring attractions downtown to revitalize it, we need to inject growth. My colleague in Ward 7 just talked about that, bringing incentivizing and talking about injecting that. Respectfully, I've been walking and meeting neighbors yearly around springtime. And I asked them a pretty good question. And much like I did knocking on doors during election, my strength in regards to wanting the downtown to grow or to look like somewhere that people could be proud of to go to has increased. It was roughly around 1,000 people when I was walking. That number has doubled. More than 2,000 people strong want the downtown to grow and be more vibrant, somewhere where the youth can go, somewhere where if they start getting older, they can go and hang out. We can't do that with what we have now and propose there. It's not feasible for developers, not feasible for any type of injection of growth. It's on top of a hill. And I'm only talking about Area 2. Respectfully, I have listened to those that are against it, and those numbers are only around 40. They're outweighed in regards to popularity. We manage and represent over thousands of people in our wards, and we have to listen to them, and I have. I sympathize with those that are against it, and I hear them. But I must represent all, and that includes the whole town. Respectfully, I have to inject an amendment here for Area 2. Deputy Mayor, if it pleases you, I could have the recommendation or the amendment brought up now, or I could wait. Please it over to you.
If you're okay, Councillor Harper, let's have the discussion on this, hear everyone's comments, and then we will. I want to go back to Councillor Giordano because I believe he also had that some sort of amendment in mind. Perfect. And then we'll go in those steps. That way, everyone had the opportunity to comment on this first.
Thank you very much.
You're okay with that? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Scott.
Thank you. Can we start first point with some explanation of staff's response to what Mr. Bouchard raised in open forum about, as I understand it, the economic lands and intensification?
Certainly, thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor Sandu, to Councillor Scott. Just verify my notes. And admittedly, the staff report that Mr. Bouchard's comments dated of today's date speak to was published late last week, inclusive of recommended modifications to the policies on which Mr. Bouchard previously provided some feedback. I'm not familiar with whether Councillor has received a copy of Mr. Bouchard's printed submission, but I'll refer to the second page of his letter. First bullet point, Mr. Bouchard initially notes that the Watson and Associates Employment Area Strategy Land Needs Assessment as he submits, fails to calculate an appropriate intensification factor and a reasonable vacancy adjustment, leading to an overestimation of employment area land needs in the town. So in that respect, I would suggest that, well, first of all, I would submit that the work that Watson has completed has been factored into and been considered as part of the formulation of proposed policies, but does not in and of itself constitute policy. Where there is a dispute in the background material, as Mr. Bichard has pointed out through his client's professional land economist's peer review, that can certainly form the basis for what I infer to be their aspirations to seek to redesignate some industrial commercial lands in Community Plan Area 5 to residential. I'd suggest that it need not necessarily be an area of potential disagreement that would need to be resolved for council to make a decision on the official plan amendments that are presented tonight, and that the substance of that point would be worthy of consideration through Mr. Bichard's work with his clients in the Community Plan Area 5 secondary plan, where the distribution of land uses would presumably be subject to further refinement and possible redesignation, subject to what they may submit to council and the community in the future. Does that address the first point? I'm pleased to speak to the second point as well, if you like.
I haven't made my second point.
Oh, sorry.
But yes, it did. Thank you.
With respect to the second point, Mr. Bichard has expressed concern about some of the modified policies. And to rewind a little bit, the previous official plan amendment proposed, again, proposed in draft form, that lands within a certain proximity of a provincial highway corridor or interchange be protected from redesignation to a non-employment use. The idea being protect lands with close visibility to the highway and with close access to an interchange for long-term use for types of uses that would benefit from high visibility and quick access for movement of goods along provincial corridors. That said, the previous policies with a 400 meter and 800 meter threshold have been proposed by staff and by the planning consultant for the town and supported by staff for removal and modification to no longer draw the firm line in the sand, so to speak, with fixed thresholds, but rather to articulate policies in a more aspirational approach, specifically suggesting that lands be protected from redesignation if they are in close proximity to a provincial or county highway. And those are policies that Mr. Bichard has requested to be modified, the effect of which would essentially render industrial commercial designated land essentially simpler to be pursued for redesignation with land uses that would not generate employment, such as residential.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. I'm going to go back to Councillor Scott. He had a follow-up.
Well, actually, I think more so I'm now going to comment on the other piece, the major transit station area. But just to conclude, what I understood from Mr. Weeb was Mr. Bichard's concerns about global policy can still be dealt with more particularly when we come to his sites or his client's sites. So to back up, I think this is almost certainly the most consequential policy and planning file of this, or excuse me, most consequential planning file of this term. The growth management strategy in the official plan amendment for our GO train station area does give us a long-term framework for managing growth responsibly. Now, as others have said, there's still a lot more homework to do, unfortunately, to resolve the floodplain issue. And I think I've suggested in the past that the capital investigations that Mr. Weeb spoke to, there are ways to do it. If Metrolinx is still going to double the GO train tracks, or through our phosphorus recycling and reduction facility, if there is an engineered wetland, berms, riverfront trails, the road realignment itself, there are actually ways to engineer our way out of the floodplain issue. And I also think in that work, we have to look really particularly at the Bridge Street corridor. We're all hearing about it with the bridge under construction right now, but in the future, even with the bypass, we're going to need an additional way either out of the marsh for agriculture and or for people in and out of Bradford, whether that's a service road running parallel with Bridge Street or perhaps another idea. So I hear and I agree with what other colleagues have said about the limitations of this study, but I do think it's a really strong framework for our eastern gateway to town, because it gives us the policy foundation to deliver the kind of downtown revitalization I've talked about, we've talked about for years, and that's a connected riverfront trail system, which will give us recreational and cultural amenities along Bridge Street and the Holland River, compact, transit-oriented urban development that respects the small town character but creates, I think Councillor Giordano might have mentioned, that density that you want near a transit station, and then helps bring people into the downtown, which will benefit from the Holland Street transformation in the coming years. I also think we have to, in all of this, respect that there are still agricultural areas in this area in my ward. It also gives us the ability to really delve into how we would solve the flood plain issues with the Conservation Authority and other levels of government, and the capital that we would need to do that from the private sector. But all in all, I think this is a plan to transform the east end of town from an overlooked edge into a destination where residents can live, work, and play, whether that's cycling, walking, paddling, jogging along our riverfront, and benefiting from one of our biggest transportation assets, the GO train station, which incidentally needs some work that we dealt with in our resolutions last meeting. So done right, this ties into the Holland Street transformation and downtown revitalization. It ties into the Civic Center having town staff working that close to the retail that we hope to bring along Holland Street, and more residents in the downtown. So I do agree with the two councillors who have talked about increasing the stories for the future development in this corridor. But ultimately, I think this is what smart growth looks like, where we're combining recreation, economic development, revitalization, and our quality of life. And I'm quite pleased and proud that this critical part of Bradford's future is being advanced, and that it happens to be commitments I made toward two residents to improve this part of our ward and our whole town.
Okay, thank you for those comments. I'm going to go to Mayor Leduc, and then after that, I'm going to go back to Councilor Giordano, who's been patiently waiting for his answers. Go ahead, Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Alan, for explaining that a little bit about what Mr. Bichard was talking about when it came to his concerns with the growth plan. And I think those are things we can deal with at the CPA 5 level. I like the plan. I do like the plan. I think it's a good plan for us. I love the inclusionary zoning and the community planning permit for the MTSA. I would ask why we didn't include that also in the Holland Street mixed corridor area. I wondered if that could be something included in that area. The 3-6-story issue, I know that Councillor Harper has an amendment to this, but I understand we've taken the 3-story out of that concern because it was legal non-conforming if we had the 3-story in there, if I'm correct with that. So I just wondered what that, the Holland Street mix, we want to incentivize the downtown core. We really want to do it, and we've got some projects already starting down there that are moving along quite well, and we want to certainly build on that. So I'm just wondering if that is something that can be done or incorporated in there. Like, can you kind of explain to me what the community planning permit system would be? Because we already have what we call a concierge program for planning. So I just wondered what's the difference between that and the community planning permit system that you're thinking in this report. So we could explain that first.
Through the Deputy Mayor to Mayor Luke, the CPPS community planning permit system is an all-encompassing opportunity for a one-stop shop process when you're looking at defining a vision for an area, but then allowing landowners to come together to create an approvals process that's more streamlined to that specific area. So it allows for things to move at a more streamlined pace, let's call it, where you wouldn't necessarily have to go through a separate approvals process. This kind of tailors everything to that particular area.
Good incentive program for down with by the MTSA system, and I'm wondering if that would be something that could be extended a little bit further into the Holland Street. So I question if that could be done, and the inclusionary zoning, if that could be added in that area. Is that something that makes sense in that you don't talk about it. You talk about the MTSA. So just wondered if that's something. Further comments from planning.
Through the chair, to answer your question, Mayor Leduc, the County of Simcoe recently completed a community planning permit system study, and they're in the process of providing a set of implementation tools and recommendations for lower tiers to use in implementing that. And the intention with that policy was to essentially open the door for the town should council desire to have staff look into that and implement such a system. That was included for that purpose. And the CPPS is typically recommended to be applied to really specific geographic areas, like the MTSA, where we know what kind of development we want to see. If council has a desire to have a CPPS applied to other specific geographic parts of town, like the Holland Street corridor, that is certainly something we could incorporate as an open door kind of policy, so that the tool is there for staff to look into that at a later time. That's certainly something that can be done. In terms of the inclusionary zoning, I will pass it to my manager, Alan, shortly. But the policy for the inclusionary zoning piece for the MTSA was there previously. So that's not a new policy. That was already in our OP, and we just carried it forward. And the intention with that is similar to the CPPS. It just opens the door for us to look into doing that as a project in the future. A similar response for Holland Street corridor. If that is something that council wants staff to look into, we can look into it. But typically, inclusionary zoning is applied to major transit station areas, and it specifically said so in the Planning Act. But yeah, I will pass it on to Mr. Wee.
Thanks, Mona. Through you, Deputy Mayor Sandu, to Mayor Leduc. Yes, and on the inclusionary zoning piece, the proposed official plan amendment for the major transit station area and Bridge Street corridor does include a policy that would essentially provide direction for staff to seek to advance work for the assessment report that would be required to support that framework through inclusionary zoning. So essentially, through provincial requirements, we would need to complete an assessment report that would essentially evaluate a number of things, including demographics, income levels, housing supply, and so forth. So dare I say, perhaps a bit of a housing needs assessment at a more focused level of the area subject to the inclusionary zoning project. And that's something that that has been built into the proposed official plan amendment, subject to Council's adoption of the amendment. That project would be sought to be advanced as part of a subsequent piece of work.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Giordano had 3 questions earlier. I'm going to let him ask, but basically from my memory, it was about the public comments not being addressed, the building height restrictions, and development around Bridge Street. Yeah, just go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to hear the other colleagues kind of speak up and stuff like that as well before I ask my questions. So number one, so intensification and transformation of the downtown. I stand by my comments. One of the things I noticed, though, is that there was a mention earlier that they said that there's a new study, or we may have to do a study for Bridge Street to see if we can do more. Is that correct? So So here's the thing: if we want intensification and we want to prevent, gobbling up a bunch of farmland to hit some sort of targets that we didn't sign up for, but we don't have the study. So how are we going ahead with a plan, but we don't have the study to say whether or not we can, think about this. If we put like 10 condos in the Bridge Street area, 100 floors each, that's 2 massive farms that we don't have to gobble up to build a bunch of subdivisions with townhomes that they can turn into a bunch of ADUs. I'd much rather see that along Bridge Street than I would see a bunch of farms gobbled up into ADU townhouse kind of mega complex. So that's a concern that I have. I think, going back to my question with the Bridge Street area, that needs to be a focus. I grew up in Thornhill with the GO train station in a very industrial kind of wasteland area, and it was forever before they can transform that area. We have the opportunity to put it into a plan now to actually make it make sense, and we're kind of like, well, we're not going to deal with that now. We're going to deal with everywhere else first, and then we'll just kind of let it sit. It's like, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. And I think height is an option there. So that's question number one. So question number one is, why can't we move ahead with the Bridge Street, intensification with multiple floors? Question number two, the public provided lots of feedback, majority feedback at the consultation. The whole point of these consultations is we're supposed to listen to council and to the public and everyone else get that feedback. Myself and many members of the public feel that was not included in this. So the question is, why wasn't it not included? And do you still have all those documents and those boards that showed all that? Because I think that people want to know why some of those comments weren't articulated. For example, a lot of people, including myself and other members of this council and lots of members of the public, were saying the Four Corners area, including eastward, even westward, eastward and westward to Professor Day, wanted to see multiple stories above 4, 5, 6 stories. And the reason why it's so important is that, number one, if you actually want to transform the downtown area, you need to incentivize the builders or developers to turn around, or the people that own the properties, to either say, you know what, yeah, I got 3 stories there, but I can turn this into an 8-story or a 10-story without having to come and lobby council, lobby staff to try to see, oh, will I get approvals if I come to this? We need to make it turnkey, simple, and easy so people can either sell their properties, convert their properties, or developers can buy them and do what we need to do to transform the downtown area. So, again, why are we only limiting the height in the downtown core when everyone was asking to do more? Another question. So this is one that I was waiting on. So 10 Side Road. If you look at 10 Side Road, we have the Bradford bypass coming, right? And it looks like all that farmland is owned by developers, and from basically 10 Side Road all the way to the 400. But yet we have a focus because of, I guess, the golf course and now a school and everything else. It looks like we're moving down to the 5th Side Road area. But why are we not focusing our area around the Bradford bypass? Why are we leaving the Bradford bypass area vacant all around that area for future when we're kind of moving around to all these other locations? Last question. No, that's it. That was my last one. So.
I hope you were writing them down, Mr. Weeb. Go ahead. Floor is all yours.
Certainly. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Sandu, through to Councillor Giordano. And perhaps I could try to address a couple of the questions posed while then deferring to Ms. Masudi as well for assistance, and also welcoming our planning consultant from WSP to share their thoughts as well, with where there may be some additional supplemental responses to share. So first of all, perhaps with respect to the public comments that were shared, staff, the town's planning consultant and staff have presented the proposed official plan amendments this evening. They've gone through a fair amount of consultation in their development, from essentially a blank slate, so to speak, to policy, and then advanced to a public open house in August and a public meeting in September. So that said, a number of non-statutory consultation sessions had occurred in the development of policy. We had visioning workshops, public open houses, knowledge cafe. Those were above and beyond the Planning Act requirements, but the purpose was to seek feedback from the community, from members of council, as to what the aspirations were for intensification and essentially the boundaries for the major transit station area, where intensification might be desired elsewhere within existing boundaries, and so forth. So the consultations, the substantive consultations that occurred before August of this year, those all culminated in the production of the draft policies that went to the public open house in August and the public meeting in September. So the hope is that those draft policies as presented at that time are reflective of the feedback that we've received through that. In terms of the feedback that we've received since the production of the draft policies, the recommendation report presented this evening includes a public comment response matrix. It is intended to be theme-based so that we're satisfying the Planning Act requirements to provide a recommendation on what effect, if any, those comments on the proposed policies might have on Council's decision. In some instances, the recommendation has been that it should result in modification. And in other instances, the recommendation has been no modification. So that's been presented for Council's consideration to fill that Planning Act requirement to inform its decision. With respect to the building heights, I suspect that we're perhaps in a two-part answer on that one as it relates to the Holland Street West mixed-use corridor in particular, as well as the Bridge Street corridor. Would you like to address the Holland Street West mixed-use corridor, Mr. Marzo? So I'll defer to Mr. Marzo for that point.
Thank you, Alan. Yes, to the councillor. The Holland Street corridor mixed-use component was identified because we wanted to maintain a pedestrian-friendly mixed-use corridor along the entirety of the strategic growth area to maintain that as a walkable, connected community, recognizing that that area should be predominantly a mid-rise focus, which is what we had identified in the area. So west of Professor Day all the way over to Side Road 10, that mixed-use component, we again wanted it to be more of a pedestrian-focused mixed-use feel that recognizes a scale of height and density that's appropriate for the corridor.
Actually, if I may add to that one as well, additionally, the official plan amendment proposed for the major transit station area and the Holland Street West mixed-use corridor, so the strategic growth area, does actually propose to increase height permissions to up to 8 stories under the official plan, including at the Four Corners and about a half a dozen properties to the west of the Four Corners, as well as for an extended stretch through to the major transit station area to the, to the Dissette Street intensification area closer to the GO station. And then beyond that, again, 6 stories to the Western Gateway. And perhaps to address the floodplain, the Bridge Street corridor floodplain, I'll defer to Ms. Masudi, who's directly part of the MTSA LPA.
Thank you. So in relation to the Bridge Street floodplain, I completely understand where you're coming from. Our desire would have been to be able to present policies that would support development on Bridge Street if that was possible. But because Bridge Street falls entirely within a floodplain, and we did extensive consultation with the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority to get a deeper understanding of exactly what could happen here. And based on the geographic natural hazard restrictions there, based on the regulations that the LSRCA has to comply by, provincial policy and the provincial planning statement that prohibits us from doing any kind of development in a floodplain unless a specific set of studies have been done. Because of these restrictions, we could not present any kind of policy that promotes development on Bridge Street. So the way that the density has been spread out in the MTSA is that as part of the background work that Watson did, they had to take into consideration that the province requires us to plan for a density of 150 people and jobs per hectare for the MTSA. And as part of their evaluation, they had to determine what the total number of people and jobs would be for the MTSA based on its area. And they did an evaluation of what are the parts of the MTSA that can reasonably be developed to accommodate that, and while having and being respectful of the environmental constraints. And so their analysis determined that Dissette is the, from an economic standpoint, it is the best suited part of the MTSA to accommodate the greatest growth. So essentially, the MTSA is still accommodating the total number of people and jobs that it should be. It's dispersed a bit more to accommodate the constraints that are on Bridge Street. And so the policy that we've put in, saying we need to do a future study, essentially that is the only way that we can proceed with looking at how to develop Bridge Street further in a way that the Conservation Authority can also support, and in a way that is mindful of the safety matters that are present in a floodplain. I hope that that clarifies it somewhat. I'm happy to pass it on to Alan and or Frank if you guys have anything to add.
Okay, any follow-up?
Okay, no, I appreciate it. I respect all of you very much, and I thank you for, it's a lot of questions. This is very, as Councillor Scott said, this is an extremely, extremely important document that we're looking at here, and this sets the tone in the future. So we're going to be on it as long as it takes to get it dealt with. Follow up. So, Alan, I know you're super smart and everything else, but I don't think you answered my question. So, was the public feedback cut out or omitted? That's my first question. And number two, you mentioned the consultant. You mentioned that there's some mid-rise that's been allocated. So what's a definition of mid-rise?
Thank you. Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Giordano. May I ask for clarity with respect to the reference to the public feedback omitted?
Yeah, so there was lots of consultation when we came to all these different, and I know a lot of people are saying, yeah, go up. We'd rather go up in the downtown core area, along Bridge Street. Obviously, you explained why that's not there, but along Dissette as well, as opposed to taking all the farmland. That was a lot of the feedback that we're seeing, but we're seeing that a lot of the heights of the buildings are, 6 stories. But if we can go 8 to 10, those multiple units, not only is it more incentivizing for developers to go ahead and move forward, but it also puts a lot more units in a properly controlled, and I know the consultant was mentioning about a walkable space. Well, I don't know how going up a few stories more makes it less walkable, and again, I'm looking for the definition of what a mid-rise is.
Okay. Certainly, so with respect to the walkability component and mid-rise and the heights, I'll refer to Mr. Marzo. With respect to the public feedback, there was certainly no intention to omit public feedback received prior to the production of the draft official plan amendments from this report. This report focuses on the public feedback that has been received in direct response to the draft amendments. Public feedback received prior to that formed the basis for the development of the draft policies that were prepared. And that was addressed through a previous staff report that identified the various public consultation efforts that had taken place, the types of feedback received, and was explaining the direction that the draft policies would be taking. But this report certainly seeks to address the public feedback received in direct response to the proposed policies that were the result of the previous consultation efforts.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically what I'm hearing is that if public comes out and gives their feedback, that shapes the first initial document. Then the public has to all return back again at the following time to then give additional feedback on the documents provided to make sure that their feedback is continued all the way through. If they don't stay on this process all the way through, and you said you went over and above, did some more outreaches and everything else outside of this, what's mandated, unless the public is continuing giving the feedback stuff could say, yeah, it's close or it's good enough, and other people say, oh, no, I don't like it, bring it down. So if we have a bunch of other people showing up towards the end, that, you know, they can have difference of opinions when it gets to that stage. So ultimately, this process means that people have to stay informed and they have to be providing their feedback through all steps of the process, not just one or two, correct?
So if I can answer before you get, from what I hear, Councillor Giordano, is if there was a public meeting first step and public came and submitted their comments and they signed the roster, they have been informed throughout the steps of every step of the way. Unless tonight you have a particular comment that you feel was omitted, then otherwise I suggest we take it offline and see which was omitted, and then, you know, put it back to them and see how it was addressed. Otherwise, we're going to go in circles. As you said, this is an important document, and we will take as much time as we need, because this is the future of our town. This is how we're going to grow, and we want to do it right. But also, when people bring up comments, not every comment's going to get a satisfactory answer. Sometimes the answer might be no. And that is a no, as long as they back it up with facts and documents, and see why it was no or why it was yes, and that's how it works. You have anything to add, Mr. Weeb?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Sandhu. And I agree with your responses to Councillor Giordano as well, that the proposed official plan amendments may not have incorporated every single component of public feedback, which is certainly part of the basis for the obligation the town has had to engage in statutory consultation through the August public open house, through the September public meeting, for which notice was provided broadly in both respects. Certainly, as an example, for the public open house, notice was sent by mail to folks within the boundaries subject to modification, as well as within 120 meters of the boundaries, as an example for to ensure that we're reaching out proactively to promote engagement. And in the absence of additional comments, we would refer to the residents for their discretion as to whether or not they feel their previous submissions have been addressed.
Thank you. Maybe going forward, Councillor Giordano is right, that we look at our process, how we circle back with these people, so at least they know they were heard and whether their comments were taken or not taken. Somehow we keep a loop just to make the process better. Go ahead, Vanna.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that question, because public consultation and feedback is incredibly important to us too. And that was a really big part of this whole process. As someone who directly spoke to residents who came out, and I mentioned this at the time and I want to say it again, I love it when people show up, whether it's positive or negative feedback. We want to hear from them. I'll give you a couple of examples maybe to help clarify how some of the feedback was incorporated. In the visioning exercises that we did for the MTSA, for example, one of the feedback that came up a lot from the community was, what about, incorporating trails or putting some, more nature-oriented activities near Bridge Street. And that was something that we did identify in the policies. Another common feedback that we got was a lot of residents expressed frustration with traffic on Bridge Street. And so as a result of that feedback, we made amendments to Schedule C to identify an opportunity to help relieve some traffic in the future should the town do so. Some of the feedback that was shared with us by the public was unfortunately not things that we could incorporate into policy. I'll tell you a very common one was a request to get a Costco by the GO station. And as much as I understand, I love Costco too. The reality is that we can't put a policy that says that, right? So, at least to my understanding. So, I guess the point is, we tried our best to demonstrate in the comments matrix how we dealt with that feedback. But, if we haven't done a great job of showing that, I apologize. But I do want to emphasize that the feedback was taken seriously. It was incorporated. And one additional thing is every time there was an update to anything, whether we were coming to council or having an open house, anything really, we made sure to send an email blast out to a list of subscribers. And I believe that list is approximately 500 people. So we did our best to reach out, and to Alan's point, we mailed out notices, and my colleague Thomas and I were at Carrot Fest. We actually saw we were right next to Mayor Leduc, which was great for traffic in terms of, being able to speak to people. We've done our best to incorporate that, and, further, and last comment, I promise, further to the Costco piece, a comment that came up a lot when we were at Carrot Fest was about the speed cameras. So again, I understand, there's concerns about that, but it doesn't relate to planning, right? So anything that we could do through planning policy, we did our best to do so. That's all.
Okay, so I will allow you this time, Councillor Giordano. We have been going around. Councillor Ferragini hasn't spoken once yet. He's waiting for his turn. And then after this, we're going to go to the amendment and vote. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, but I didn't get all my answers, so that's why I'm going back and forth. I do appreciate what you guys get. So number one, what's the definition of mid-rise? I'm still waiting on that. And then number two, I know multiple residents have attended multiple sessions and they did not receive an email. So again, I know that you have a large database and everything else. I can tell you that, that there's people reaching out saying that, no, I've never received anything. So again, as much as we say we're doing it, that's fantastic that we are. But if the public's saying they're not being informed or if they're not getting the emails, I don't know, I can only take, everyone's word and just bring it up and go from there. The concerns that I had, Deputy Mayor, to your point, that we're not going in circles. The feedback that majority of people are talking about, and I'll make it very simple, it was 8, 10, 12, and 115. So almost everyone was saying, give us 8, 10, or 12 stories in around the Professor Day to the, around the Four Corners area, Bridge Street, whatever. And one person said 15 stories. So that's the point, that they're saying that they don't find that being reflective. You mentioned again what the mid-rise. So what's the definition of a mid-rise? Because I think those stories fall within a mid-rise.
To the Deputy Mayor, through to the Councillor. My apologies. In reference to the mid-rise, I was speaking specifically to the context upon which we've set this in motion, which is we're reflecting that the majority of height and density be in the MTSA, and recognizing that height, obviously at the set is being its highest at 12. Yes, you could have mid-rise typologies that are within that 3 to 10 story range. I think the issue here is that when I spoke earlier about walkable mid-rise, what I'm suggesting is a variety of built form that is more of a walkable nature, that you could get walk-up towns or back-to-back towns or stacked townhouses along with a mid-rise typology that doesn't pierce that threshold of getting to a higher level that would encroach within the MTSA ranges. So if you're trying to incentivize height at the MTSA and protect that being your highest component of the corridor, you obviously want to be starting to step back to something that's more manageable from a built form standpoint.
Okay, thank you. And for the emails, Councillor Giordano, maybe perhaps if you have those emails, can you share it with them and see where the disconnect is? That way, at least that loop is closed, see if they're registered or if they're just somehow got mixed. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If I can add one more point to Mr. Marzo's response with respect to the question about height. About 8 years ago, the previous term of council had passed an official plan amendment number 27 for the downtown Bradford planning area. and that introduced the minimum and maximum height within that area. Those policies included the ability for council, through a zoning amendment, not an official plan amendment, to approve heights in excess of those maximums, subject to certain criteria being established, including a requirement for a community benefit contribution, as council has recently seen with a recent proposed development that's come back to public meeting for a 9-story. That same framework continues to apply, proposed to apply to the downtown planning area. There is a bit of a height increase within the Four Corners area and to the east of that, all the way through to the Dissette corridor, but is otherwise consistent with what's already in effect through the previous official plan amendment. And perhaps to the point about the Holland Street West mixed-use corridor, which would be between Professor Day Melbourne and Side Road 10, although the proposed policies present suggested height limit of up to 6 stories at this point for relative continuity in that policy-based ceiling, so to speak, council could certainly elect to consider a similar framework for that area, such that it be treated to the same level of urban design, stepping back of stories in excess of 6 stories and so forth. So just one more point for consideration. I believe that may respond to a question raised by Councillor Harper before as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Virginie.
Oh, thank you. No, I don't.
Thank you for waiting.
Well, thank you. No, I want to say thank you to the staff. This is a long project that you've been working on. It's one of these fun documents that just keeps going, and as soon as you finally you finally put it into play, you're already working on the next one. It's just the way it goes with the official plan. So thank you for all the time and effort that you put into it. We've had a lot of public meetings, we've had a lot of workshops, fully got involved with the public, got a lot of information and comments from them. But Alan, you literally just said everything that I kind of wanted to touch on, was the heights restrictions. I'm okay with the way that this is written right now, because at the end of the day, if somebody does want to put something forward, they can bring it to council and we can look at it at an ad hoc basis. I know Councillor Giordano says instead of doing a song and dance, I wouldn't be comfortable with that, because we had a project come to us. It was that 9-story that you were talking about right across from Holland Court. And I don't know if all of us were against it, but council had a lot of opinions against that and where it was being put, because it stuck out like a sore thumb, and it really changed the whole entire landscape of our downtown core. So I'm okay with the way that the official plan is written now. And if plans come forward where they want to increase heights, all you got to do is ask. It's simple. And if it fits the area, great. If it doesn't, that's up to the council at the time. So I'm okay with what we have in front of us, and I appreciate all the work that you guys have put into this.
Well, thank you for those comments, and I want to also thank you, staff. Ms. Masodi, I know how much work, how much social media feeds went out, and you asked every single member of council to share it. You were sharing it, staff was sharing it, so there was no lack of trying to get public input, and I really appreciate it, because I felt this time we went way overboard. We really did it, and kudos to you guys, and thank you for all the hard work. I'm okay with the way it's written, but I'm looking for an amendment, and Councillor Harper's been patiently waiting to put that amendment on the floor. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you very much for your engagement and answers and to the questions brought forward by my colleagues. Could I get the amendment brought up on the board, please? And if you may, Deputy Mayor, may I read it out loud, if that's okay?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thanks. Section 3.2 of the Strategic Growth Area, Holland Street West SGA, of the official plan be amended to replace the maximum building height of 6 stories with 8 stories for areas 1 and 2 of the Holland Street West Strategic Growth Area, and for the Holland Street Mixed-Use Corridor.
Okay. Do we have a second? Councillor Scott? Okay, any comments or questions about the amendment? Councillor Verkuyk.
I'd also like to speak to something after this, not about this amendment, but about this amendment. I'm totally satisfied with 6 stories. I agree exactly what Peter said. keep it at 6 stories. If they want to go and ask for additional stories, we can deal with it on a case-by-case basis to make sure it fits in with the community. We got to make sure there's enough parking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, we have amendment before us. Everyone clear what they're voting on? Okay, all in favor of this amendment? 2, 4, 5. Opposed? Okay, amendment's carried. Now we're coming back to the main motion. Councillor Verkuyk, you had a comment, and after that, maybe we'll wrap this up and go to the next one, because that, I think, is going to equally take the time.
Yeah, so just there was a comment made about the land use conversion by major 400 series highway type things. And the comment by staff was that the reason they have that 400 meter buffer or whatever is because they're high visibility areas, so it's good for commercial and industrial. But I also want to emphasize that another reason why we keep commercial and industrial by the 400 series highways is because in a previous years ago I was involved with some land conversions in Toronto, and the highest pollution in the city of Toronto is along the 427, the QEW, the 401. So you don't really want residential right up against the highways. You want that buffer because that's where all the pollution comes. There's more pollution from a 400 series highway than there is from any industrial. It's constant pollution. So that should be a consideration when they're looking at land use conversion.
Okay, thank you for that comment. Any other comment? Okay, colleagues, I'm not going to read that, but that's as amended, and we duly had a mover and a seconder for that, right? Okay. Okay, all in favor as amended? Okay. Any opposed? All right. Carried. Thank you. All right, let's move along. Line 8 Class EA from Berry Street to Side Road 10 and Side Road 10 to Regions Industrial Parkway, CAP 2025-7. Just want to say thank you to Ms. Masaldi, Ms. DeWeeb, and you, sir, for your time. I'm sorry I forgot the name. I could have called him Raj. All right, recommendation that council receive a report CAP 2025-4 titled, and that council approve in principle the conclusions and recommendations of Line 8E Class EA from Berry Street to Side Road 10 and Side Road 10 to Line 8 to Regions Industrial Parkway. Why does this seem like it's missing something, Madam Clerk? Yeah. Yeah, but this and what's on the screen does not match. But anyway, okay, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Harper, Councillor Scott, okay. Questions or comments? I know there's a few amendments that were sent out earlier. Who wants to start? Councillor Ferragini.
Thank you. Well, I just jumped on it first because I'd be waiting until I fell asleep. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I know that we've been discussing this for a while. We've had some public information sessions and everything. I have brought up concerns that I have heard from the public as well as my own concerns, and none of them have been addressed because the engineers have already created this, and it was basically the public meeting was to say, hey, here it is and enjoy kind of idea. I'm not in favor of this proposal that's put in front of us. Where we have the intersection at Line 8 and Berry, where it turns into all that kerfluffle of lanes going on there. You've got from east to west, from Berry Street, you got one lane that divides into two. Then you've got 3 lanes going west to east, where one of the straight lanes turns into a turning lane. It's just cause for confusion. We see it at Simcoe Road. We see it coming south from Innisfil towards Bradford. Same idea. People jumping into those lanes. Never been a fan of that. You've got 5 lanes in front of the residential homes here, which is just trying to get in and out of their driveway, crossing 3-4 lanes of live traffic is going to be insane for the people that live there. We have an on and off ramp coming onto Yonge Street. We have the Bradford bypass being built currently as we speak, which is supposed to be completed in 2031. We have an on and off ramp on the 10th Side Road to get to that link. We have, as far as I understand from Professor Day is going to break through. So you're going to have multiple access points to get where you need to go. This side of the corridor does not need to be like this. It doesn't need to be this intense. I see in the notes that it's preparing for future traffic past 2031. I don't see it. We've got from Berry Street to Professor Day should be, right from the beginning I had said, should be 3 lanes. You've got your eastbound, westbound, live lanes, and then you've got your median, which can take out the left turning lane traffic, and you have the aprons or the turn-offs on the right turn lanes to get into any street that they need to get into. I've made this my opinion right from the beginning. I've always stuck to this opinion. I think this is going way overboard. We're doing an overkill on this one section. Doesn't make any sense to me. So leave it up to everybody else to have their comments, but I would make a recommendation that this be brought back to council with, if we kept it, as my opinion, with the way that I'm talking about, and I think Councillor Harper's mentioned this as well, 2 live lanes with the median and then having the right turning lanes in the appropriate areas. Show me how different that's going to be compared to what we're putting here right now, because this is intense. So, and I think this is way overboard, and it's going to disrupt a ton of residents' lives. So everybody else make their comments, but I'm definitely going to want to have that come back to us.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Harper?
I might as well piggyback off Councillor Faragine here. Again, I've been pretty vocal along the same lines in regards to this, and I'd like to bring some more factual elements to it. The saying that years are not, that's not what I'm trying to say. In regards to the widths of the roads and how they're about to expand, in regards to Lowe's Gate, the one access point that follows into Dreamsfields East, which houses over 800 resident homes and over about 1,500 different residents in our community that use this access road. Right now, the road width sits at 9 meters, which is about 30 feet, and is set under this plan in the EA, set to expand to 75 feet across. Imagine trying to cross over 3 live lanes of traffic on a non-lighted area. It already has issues coming out of there, and that's, again, 800 homes. That's 1,500 residents that will use this access route. Yes, I know that it's troublesome, but it definitely brings some major safety concerns to me. I would like to do a recommendation back as well, but I will wait till after comments. And again, Deputy Mayor, you can come back to me. When I looked at the stats in regards to the numbers, it had all the numbers going that everyone is going to use Berry Street to go onto the highway. It had the traffic counts around 1,700. What they didn't have is the same amount of numbers that people would sit. They thought everyone was going to sit at Berry Street and not go over to line 10 and access the on-ramp there, or go to Professor Day and take the chute across there. Because those numbers at Berry Street, at Side Road 10 and line 8, traffic counts were 700, or roughly around there, in regards to the numbers. So I like that they talked about the roundabout, the dual lane. We'll talk about more pedestrian crossings and stuff like that, and adding the 2 lanes all the way across line 8 from Side Road 10 to Professor Day. I believe 2 eastbound, 2 westbound. I believe that's important. Where I do agree with my colleague, is from Noble Drive all the way to Berry Street. I would be okay with the 2 eastbound lanes because you're taking out the sidewalk on the south side, and that could address the concerns going out. My concern for safety and everything that I'd like to see is that 1 westbound lane still remaining instead of 2 westbound lanes. And I think that might alleviate a lot of this. And it would account for some growth still. It would account for, flow to come in and for the turn lanes to be incorporated. The sidewalks will help drastically in regards to pedestrian movement and safety and cut down on a lot of the crossing of the roads. Northgate lights is a plus. I like that. But where I do have a huge concern is from Berry Street up to Northgate, where it starts from growing to about, I think it was 16 meters. It's at 12 meters now. It's expected to grow another 12 feet. And then again, it's going to grow again to another 30 feet all the way up to Northgate. So that those extra live lanes of traffic coming across from that one area might be troublesome. I'll leave my points there, and we'll have a recommendation after everyone else has a chance to comment.
I didn't get a question for staff out of the comments from there. What I was going to suggest is, because of this report, perhaps it would be right that we do the amendments as you have it, because they might change the nature of the debate, and that way we deal with it right away and then go with it. If you have your amendment ready, let's put it on the floor and we deal with it, and then we go to the next one. Otherwise, if we get all these comments and the amendment changes everything, then that time can be saved.
Deputy Mayor, I am prepared, and staff do have a preemptive direction here that's being brought up on the board. And I'll read it out loud again. Staff are directed to revisit the Line 8 design between Berry Street and Noble Drive and advise on replacing the 2 westbound through lanes with 1 westbound lane from Berry Street to Noble Drive, incorporating the turn lanes where required, or 1 westbound lane from Berry Street to Northgate Drive, incorporating a right turn lane into Lowe's Gate. And that is my recommendation.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Scott? Okay. Any comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Scott.
Well, just briefly, I think what Councillor Harper proposed goes towards addressing what he has raised. I'm not certain if it will solve everything Councillor Ferragini raised, but I think it would help. Okay? He says not at all. I say maybe it will help. But what I like about this is the word revisit as part of the process is compliant with the Environmental Assessment Act and how we can go through that process, I would believe. I also think the right-hand turn line onto Lowe's Gate, that is sort of the real challenge we're trying to solve at this part of the road section, the misalignment between Lowe's Gate and Northgate. So I like that idea, but I think this would help the area that, well, 2 councillors plus myself have already said they're concerned about.
Okay. Councillor Giuliano?
So yeah, so at this side of the town, for sure, something needs to be addressed. I'm almost wondering if it's just to refer back to staff and then we give them a bunch of lists, but we got to be careful. So here are my comments in support of this. In order for me to support anything from the 8th line, I'm very flexible from east to west, but this is what the public has told me, and so my job is to reiterate that back. So in order for me to support anything, number one is there has to be an absolute priority on signalization for the roundabout. It's obviously preferred for a set of lights. Most people prefer lights at 8th line and 10 Side Road. But if you are going to put a roundabout, it absolutely has to have the signalized pedestrian crossing as a must. Number 2, there absolutely must be the sidewalks and the connections, which we're seeing in all the options moving forward. They're here now, but it also has to integrate and connect into Henderson. That's absolutely a priority. Hold on, what else is here? Oh, the last one. the signalized crossings, whether it's 4 lanes, 5 lanes, whatever it becomes at Professor Day and 8th line, we have to understand that not only is there a new Catholic school being built on the north side, but all those kids, and there's another subdivision coming online and everything else, and eventually Lormel's going to build there too on the north side. All those people, when they have to go to high school, they have to cross the street to walk to the high school as well. So that absolutely has to have the crossings. However we divvy up the lanes and everything else, you can count on my support for whatever we decide to do if it's feasible and reasonable. But as long as those points are addressed, I'm absolutely I'm good with whatever the colleagues need.
So colleagues, okay, before you go, Councilor Giordano, let's stick with the comments about what's before us as an amendment, please. Go ahead.
So the problem with this is that we're asked to amend a motion, but there could be other motions that needed to be amended. So
I'm sure there
Right.
will be, but right now this is what we're dealing with. So if you have a comment about this,
Right.
otherwise I'm going to move to the next one.
Can we add something to that to say in addition to future comments? Because right now we're handcuffed to just this motion.
If it's a friendly amendment and the mover and the seconder are open to it, fine. Otherwise, this is what we're dealing with, Councilor Giordano. Okay, Councilor Verkuyk.
I totally understand where this is coming from, but I also think looking at this from a holistic viewpoint, this is our truck route through town. This is how trucks are going to get through. And this is going to be sort of our 4-lane route through town so that we relieve traffic on Holland Street. So I think it's very important that we maintain 4 lanes of live traffic throughout so we have 4 lanes of live traffic from Bridge Street all the way to the Dissette 8th line, 10th Side Road, County Road 88, all the way to the 400. I think it's very important to maintain 4 lanes, so I can't agree to this amendment.
Okay, point noted. Any other comments or questions about this amendment? Does staff has anything to add or explain about this amendment?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Sandhu. So this has been an ongoing EA since, 16, so 9 years now. So when this was initially kicked off, this was prior to the Bradford bypass or anything. There have been multiple engineer reports and models run in different scenarios, and the whole way through they have pointed to the 4 lanes required in that specific area. We reran the models post-21 when the province announced that they had plans to go through with the design and construction of the Bradford bypass, and this was still the outcome. There haven't been any other variables that would change that from the professional engineering modeling. That's my one comment.
Okay, just before I go to, if this amendment was carried, what does this mean to the timeline and the other aspects of the project?
It'll end up in a substantial delay and cost increase. Right now, as it stands for us to go with the recommendation in the ESR, we are looking at running concurrently. Next year, we're looking at detailed design, utility relocates, and the small bit of land acquisition. If we have to go back, we're looking at another year to 2 delay easy. And then that would not line up with the potential Holland Street corridor project and other projects within the town.
Thank you. I have Mayor Leduc and then Councillor Harper.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I actually support the project the way it's done right now through the design that's in front of us. I agree with staff that this is a 4-lane, I agree with Councillor Verkuyk, this is a 4-lane bypass. This is a main road that's going to move our traffic from Bridge to Set, 8th line, up to the bypass. If you want to take the bypass, you jump on it on either Yonge or at the 10th Side Road. This is a major road that's been on the books for a long time. We got to move forward. I think most of the concerns that, I'm assuming, Councillor, most of your concerns you were brought up are going to be addressed. I think that was through emails that we found that we're going to get the signalization, the traffic, the pedestrian crossings at the circle. We have the signalization at Professor Day. So I think those concerns are brought up, and I think that's addressed. The issue right now, I think, on the table is this one westbound lane, and I just can't support that. I think we got to stick to this design, get this done. It's already this project's already escalated enough, and I can tell you we made mistakes when we and I'm going to admit to the mistakes. The SWAR, when we built it, we should have built that as a 4-lane road, and we didn't. And that's a mistake. That's going to cost us down the road, and I don't want to make that mistake again. So to me, this is the preferred design. It works, and it definitely will help our community in the future. So I'm good with the way the design is, and I'll support the recommendation, and I can't support that that amendment at this point. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Harper.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, just for this amendment or recommendation, I know there will be plenty more. So when you're voting, colleagues, just vote regarding this one. Don't let it sway in regards to other ones, because there's going to be other things, talking points along this roadway that we're going to be talking about. I respect everyone's opinion in regards to that, but you know, those have created a lot of challenges. I mean, you look at the people that live on Dissette, and then you're talking about the SWAR that has no housing on there, or very limited housing that sit back really far to the roadway. And not as congested with some of this, even though that there has been growth in and behind the SWAR. Right now, it's affecting 1,500 other people, but the people that live on the SWAR have multiple ways to get around town. They don't. The 1,500 residents that live in behind Line 8 don't have anywhere else to go. The Lowe's Gate, Noble Drive, or they would have to drive all the way across over to Professor Day, would be inconvenienced if they wanted to start heading back towards Dissette Street. So I'm advocating for those thousands of residents right now in regards to this, plus incorporating growth. And I'm injecting it and trying to have some kind of mediation here in regards to it. No one's going to win. It's not going to be perfect. Heck, they shut down this EA, shut it completely down in 2021 because they couldn't come to consensus based on roundabouts and other factors. And they wanted a confirmation on the Bradford bypass. We have the Bradford bypass. That will alleviate a lot of this pressure and will be only restricted to local traffic. So let's not be short-sighted in regards to this. In regards to the trucks, they've been operating only on 2 lanes for multiple decades. Adding another lane or not is not really going to affect it or not at this point. So I would respectfully ask you to think about the residents that are in behind here when you're making this decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harper. Councillor Dykey, go ahead.
Yeah, this has been on the books, like you mentioned, from 2016. A few comments that I recall that at an open house that was never ever mentioned. You know, when we go 4 lanes, or if this project does go 4 lanes, the residents backing onto this road, that they had concerns of their backyards. If a vehicle ever went to the left or right, you know, they could, if they lost control, they can go in the backyard. There was one mentioned at a public meeting about a security fence or some kind of barrier fence that was never budgeted in this project. It wasn't really addressed at a public meeting. And I'm just concerned that when it comes out to numbers, this project has really escalated. It's going to be a $40 million plus project, which really concerns me. And I hope that, I'm not a fan of roundabouts. You know, I would rather see signalization, and definitely we have to have proper lights and proper walkways. It's going to be a very busy road. What's that?
Can we stick to this amendment, please? We will. I
Okay,
promise you, I will give you all the time.
I want to say my point.
I will give you the
Let
time.
you guys all talk. I'm speaking now.
When,
Sorry.
Councillor Dykey, I have the chair.
Fine.
We're talking about this amendment. I promise you, I will give you ample time when we come to the main motion that you can have half hour if you like to talk about the roundabouts.
I need 1 minute.
Yes. So let's deal with this first, please, and then we will move on, and you'll be the first one to go.
Yeah. Many times, I have my hand up here, and I want to say this, that I get missed out many times. Residents have reached out to me and said to me, why don't I challenge these chairs? and now I am tonight. I'm making a point that just maybe because where I sit beside Councillor Harper, my hands, I don't get addressed many times. I leave it alone, but I just want to bring this up tonight.
If we have missed you, I apologize, but I don't think I ever missed anyone, and I give enough time. And even this one, I will do it, I promise you, but let's stick with the procedure, please. Any other questions or comments about this amendment? If not, I'm going to call the vote on this amendment. Everyone clear what they're voting on? All in favor? I see the hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, can you keep your hands up, please? That's all we're voting on is this. 1, sorry, can I see the hands again, please? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? Okay. All right, it's defeated. We're back to the original motion. Councillor Dykey, with all due respect, let's start with you. I don't want you to be upset. You're a very important member of the team.
Well, thank you.
And full of wisdom. Let's go.
This is why the Blue Jays won. It's a team effort at the bottom line. And wearing the hat, you can see this tonight. Anyways, I just want to say that, you know, I mixed 4 lanes. Well, turning lanes is important as well. If that could be addressed to help this, I hope this isn't overbuilt, because as we see things built out 10, 20 years, I understand 4 lanes, but you know, I don't want to see the stress put onto the residents. It is a busy road. Yes, someone mentioned trucks. You know, trucks would be using these roads, but it really wasn't. It wasn't really designed as a truck route, really. Technically, it was a alternative to the west end, north end of town. But you know, I just have concerns for the safety for the residents that back onto the line, and you know, I just want to see this road safety for all the residents. But like I said, the schools to the north, people that go to the high schools. You know, I just hope that this fulfills all the safety requirements, and the residents are happy, because there's a lot of comments I listened to a lot of comments at that open house, and people losing land and costs. There are a lot of concerns that were addressed that night.
Thank you for those comments. Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Scott.
Thank you. I want to come to the other end of Line 8 and talk about the pedestrian access at the roundabout. So I'm very glad that the report was updated to include that we will be signalizing the roundabout, the 2 main areas that will be traversed the most to begin with, and then with the rough ends for the 2 areas that right now would just lead to a farmer's field. So I'm fine with that. I do want to propose an amendment to provide additional direction to a project that touches on this project. I recognize that it is a separate project, and that is the active transportation lane up Middletown Road towards Henderson Park. That's going to require, and I think has been requiring, coordination with MTO and the County of Simcoe. But to me, getting the pedestrian safety piece of this right is imperative. I think you've done a really good job actually on the pedestrian safety aspect along Line 8 and Middletown Road south of the roundabout, but we do need to make sure this project aligns with going up Middletown Road the same way that we did with County Road 4. So I'd ask the clerk if she could put the amendment on. It's essentially additional direction that doesn't directly impact the EA, but puts that clarity forward. And so I'll just read it. That council directs staff to work with the MTO and the County of Simcoe to coordinate the design and construction of a multi-use pathway from Line 8 to Henderson Park along Middletown Road in conjunction with the Bradford bypass construction.
Okay, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Giordano. Okay, any comments or questions about this, Mayor?
I actually have no problem with this amendment. I think it's good. It's given good clarity to the staff to work with MTO and the bypass while we're moving through the design. So I have no issue with this. I think we should support that. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, with that, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's carried. All right, now we're back to the main recommendation. as amended. Councillor Harper.
Yeah, as the main motion and as it sits right now, I cannot support it. It does not address and support 1,500 residents and then behind line 8 on Field Dreams or Dreamfields East. So I cannot support this motion as it is.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Giordano.
Yeah, so now's the appropriate time for me to talk about all the stuff I was going to, but I won't because we've already addressed a lot of it. But the one question I have is, what is the speed limit that's going to be set for this stretch of the road? I'd like to personally see it at 60 kilometers if it's reasonable or feasible. And the reason is that we're trying to get people from speeding out of our subdivisions. And so if they are going to go, if we're actually building an arterial road that's designed to take people around town quicker. What happens in Toronto, Mississauga, those other places, they drop the speed limit, they try to get speed cameras to put in place, and then they try to punish people for driving. But if you look at 8th Line, Dissette, all that area, that whole area, people drive 60, 70 kilometers normally. So are we artificially setting the speed limit too low in that area? And is there an opportunity to go to 60? If it's not feasible, if it doesn't make sense, or there's reasons why, I appreciate that. But I'm just asking that question. If there is an opportunity to move people around town faster, does that make sense to address it there?
Through Deputy Mayor Sandu to Councillor Giordano, yes, it is being designed as a 60-kilometer arterial road.
Okay, thank you. Follow up, or are you good? All right, Councillor Harper.
Follow-up question to that, is that 60 all the way from Side Road 10 to Berry Street?
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Councillor Verkuyk.
While we're doing that, can we also look at the 8th line east of Berry Street to Dissette? That's 50 right now. So if we're going to make it, it should be 60 all the way to the corner. Well, Dissette's kind of, that may not work where it's curving and blind line. But anyways, that's just a comment.
Yeah, we'll take that as a comment and let's deal with this. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, we have the main motion as amended and we had a mover and a seconder. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for your time.
Sorry, can I get a recorded vote, please?
The vote already happened, but you know what? Why not? Go ahead.
Okay, for the main motion as amended, say yes in support and no in opposition. I'll start with Councillor Harper.
For the 1,500 residents, I'm in opposition.
Okay, Councillor Duhaney.
Yes.
Councillor Dykey. Councillor Ferradini.
No.
Councillor Giordano.
Yeah.
Councillor Scott.
Yes.
Councillor Verkuyk.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sandu.
Yes.
Mayor Leduc.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is carried.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move along to item 15.4, Town Library MOU. That report CAO 2025-11 titled Town Library Memorandum of Understanding be received, and that the attached MOU be endorsed in principle, and that the CAO be authorized to sign the MOU once finalized. Can I have a mover and a seconder to put on the floor, please? Councillor Scott, Councillor Dehaney. All right, before I go to questions and answers, I'm going to ask our CAO to give a brief summary for those that do not know why we have this before us. Go ahead, Mr. McKnight.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. So looking back at a meeting in the spring, in May, council had a report in front of you from staff identifying the need to do some emergency replacements to the heating system at the library. Through that report, there was a good discussion that essentially boiled down to who's responsible for what when it comes to maintenance and operations of the building, as well as funding sources to undertake that work. So through consideration of the report, council did direct staff to proceed with the actual repair work, as well as report back on addressing a couple of questions around who can draw from library reserves, and what would a lease agreement look like between the town and the library board, or how would we formalize that arrangement. So that's in response to those directions. That's the report that's in front of you tonight. Some really good questions came out of that earlier discussion that we sought some help on to address. So we received a legal opinion that looked at a number of different elements as spelled out in the report. In my view, we got some clarity on that and provided that both to council and the board. And in consideration of the request to develop a lease or to formalize the arrangements between the town and the library, as well as following some advice or further suggestions on best practices that we received through the legal brief, our staff, in conjunction with the library CEO, have drafted a memorandum of understanding that goes into quite a bit of detail across the services that we share amongst each other, to bring some clarity to that, to make it apparent, not just to this council and the board, but moving forward, so it's understood into the future as well. So that document is attached to this. It was actually drafted, or initially drafted a few years ago, and just didn't see the light of day that we are now shedding on it through this report. So I'd like to thank all the folks that were involved in developing this. I'd say for the most part, it reflects our existing practices over the past several years and how we work with one another. But it also helps to clarify a few matters too that weren't quite as clear. So that's a quick summary. Deputy Mayor, if there's any questions on it, I'd be happy to respond.
Thank you, Mr. McKnight. I also want to recognize that we have the chair of the library board, Mr. Magallo, Mr. Ferguson, from the board member, CEO Nina, and also two of our council members, Councilor Dehaney and Councilor Giordano, also sit on the library board. So I want to say thank you. And I apologize, it's a late night, but I appreciate you waiting on this. With that, I go to Councilor Scott.
Well, first and foremost, thank you to the CAO and the CEO of the library. This is a really detailed and well-done MOU. And I think the exercise of going through the legal opinion to confirm for us all that as a separate corporation, the library board has full control over its finances, including its reserve funds. The town might administer them, but it's a sort of on trust basis, not a controlling basis. And so I think getting that clarity is good. And then the rest of the MOU goes into, as the CAO said, quite a bit of detail, and I think really nicely is going to let this council leave things better than we found it, so that there is much more clarity about a unique and deliberate part of how Ontario has set up the law around the independence of libraries vis-a-vis the municipality. So I'm happy to support this. It always pays to ask questions and engage, whether experts or lawyers, to help guide us through things rather than assuming. And I think we've landed in a good spot with this MOU, and it should make clear that the library is not another town department. It's a separate corporation under the Public Libraries Act. And I'll just add, I know there's some discussion about what does this now mean for the administration of the reserve funds and perhaps investment decisions that the library may or may not want to make. I think that can happen subsequent to the passage of an MOU quite nicely. But I would just, for what my opinion as a former finance chair of the library board is worth, I would just caution that we have to be very careful with investing any tax dollars. We can't really put the principal at risk. So what investment vehicles we already have now might be as good as it gets. But like I say, that's a decision for the board subsequent to this MOU being passed. We can then use the MOU as the framework to address the administration of the reserve funds with the essentially on trust relationship that the town finance department has for the library board.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Councillor Giordano.
Thank you. So maybe we can actually have, I'm allowed to address the chair? Yeah, so could we have all the members of the library board, other than Councillor Duhaney and myself, because we sit on this side. But yeah, if you guys want to come up, that way it might be easier to have it back and forth. So number one is, from my understanding, I just want to bring it to our team. So Ferguson's really, well, the whole team has really championed a lot of things. This one specifically, there's a lot of things that have been overlooked or under addressed in the past, and we're kind of going through that and formalizing a lot of things. So this is another one of those things that kind of came up, and it actually dusted off an old document that's been sitting around for a while. Again, I want to stress that the partnership with the town is extremely important. The give and take that we have with the two entities was working very well for a long, long time. My opinion is that this appears to be 16 pages of red tape. You know, we had a really good working trust relationship, and I think this is over-engineered the whole situation to the point where it's like, okay, great, this is what I guess sometimes governments do, right? They make things a lot more challenging. However, my understanding is that the MOU cannot release us from the Library Act, and the items in the MOU cannot override the Act, as the Act is priority. So I just wanted to maybe bring that to the team and have them kind of address what they've, you know, what their thoughts are, and you know, any potential next steps.
Would you like to take that, Chair?
I shall do my best. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Giordano, through you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to Nina and Ferguson for being here. I will say at the outset that the board has not approved the MOU. We received it yesterday, I think at 2:30 in the afternoon. So I can't speak to whether or not the board supports the MOU. To your point, we are beholden to the Act, as I'm sure Council is aware, as you are beholden to the Municipal Act, and no policy or bylaw that you pass can supersede the Municipal Act. That goes the same for us. What I understand the MOU to represent, as Jeff mentioned, is putting or codifying practices that we have in place that allows both organizations, being the municipality and the library board, practices and being able to leverage those resources that we have to benefit the taxpayer. And that's what I believe the MOU ultimately attempts to do. Not having had opportunity to go through it, I'm not sure how long council has had it. I can't speak to the efficacy of that in fairness, only because I received it yesterday. I think, if I may, bridge to a really important point, which is the reserve and the fact that we are attempting to put the reserve into an investment portfolio that performs better for the ratepayer. And thank you, Councillor Scott, for mentioning that, because we do believe we have care and control of the reserve. And we started almost a year ago attempting to modify the way that this reserve is invested with the belief that the library board has care and control of its surplus reserve. It currently sits in a checking account. We have $1.5 million sitting in a checking account. I want to put that in context because I know if I know, Ferguson will. Our total PD budget for the entire organization is $20,000. And if we were able to draw on the interest, if we had a better investment portfolio, we would probably more than double PD for our staff in the last year. That's the amount of money that we've lost in the year it's taken us to get to this point. That's why we passed the motion at our last meeting that's in the report tonight. And I think respectfully, I'd really appreciate it if council could expedite our ability to get that money out of a checking account and into a better investment portfolio. Frankly, it's like the family saving up for a car and leaving it in the same account that we're buying groceries with. It just doesn't make sense. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Durant.
You know what, thank you for your comments. In fairness to you and my colleagues around here, it wouldn't be right for us to ask you any questions about the MOU today. This is for this team to discuss and come up with the next steps, and I'm sure when it comes to you, your board would have the due time to discuss it, and if there's issues or concerns, you will bring it back through proper channels back to council through our staff. So in that, I want to say thank you, and I don't think if there's any questions about this MOU to them that I would entertain it. It's only if there's any library-related clerical questions or clarification questions, I would be okay with it. Okay? In saying that, Councillor Jordan, do you have any other questions? Okay, Councillor Harper.
This question relates to the reserve fund. So library board this term in terms of 4, you've always known that the town has been in charge of it. So how come you didn't make a recommendation to put it in a GIC? Or even this term, if you knew that you didn't have control of it?
Thank you for that rather direct question, Councillor. I appreciate the opportunity to provide a direct response. We, through the auditing process, learned that we have liquid assets of $1.5 million sitting in a surplus account, and started to investigate through staff and through our own means an attempt to move that into an investment portfolio and out of the checking account. Through the course of those actions, it resulted in us eventually passing a motion at a board meeting to bring it to council's attention in the hopes that council would then expedite that for us. And as a result of the legal opinion that we received, and again, with the intent of the MOU and the intent of our motion as well, we very much appreciate that there is one ratepayer, and we very much appreciate this relationship, this collaborative relationship that we have with council. So the intent has never been to go around or through, it was always to go with, because when we come and ask you for budget dollars to support the library and to support the community, we want to do that in a responsible way. And if we can tap into that reserve and have it perform, then that ultimately benefits the ratepayer.
Follow?
Yeah, 3 things. 1, thanks for doing that audit and finding that. 2, the legal wording on the MOU I actually agree with, and that it works back and forth, that you guys bring recommendations to council, and then we work together on that. I agree with that. 3, it brings me to concerns that was there no information or audits and stuff in regards to that before on previous terms? Because that now brings other questions into play.
I think, Councillor Harper, that question better be suited either for our CAO or Director of Finance. There has been audits, and it's not like this money was hidden somewhere and all of a sudden found. It was always, even during our budget times, we have dealt with this and looked at these numbers. So instead of passing it on to them, if you're okay, I'm either going to ask our Director of Finance to come up or answer, or if our CAO wants to answer this. Go ahead, Mr. McKnight.
I can quickly confirm that audits are conducted each year, same as for us. There's one conducted for the Marsh Board, one for Police Services, one for Library Board too.
Okay. Mayor Leduc.
Yeah, so I just to clarify, we got a great board. Thank you very much for what you do and how well you work and operate and how you're looking to take care of the tax dollars for our citizens. So we appreciate that very much. 2 different issues here tonight. I think the MOU is one, and then the how you deal with the reserve in the future is the other issue that we have to deal with. And tonight's recommendation doesn't do that for you, but I think in the future council can move through that. I know you want it done expediently, and I'm sure we can get that done if that's something that council wishes. My concern right now is that the board didn't have the MOU. You didn't receive the MOU prior to last night. We've had it for a couple of days now. We've had it since Thursday ourselves. So I'm concerned. If we pass this MOU, when is your next board meeting? I guess that's my next question, because your board has to pass, your board has to endorse this MOU also. So when is your next board meeting? Will it fall in line with the next council meeting? Because this is a committee of whole recommendation, it'll come back to us in 2 weeks from now, and council will then either endorse or not endorse the MOU. So I just need to know if we can confirm that this will work together so that we don't have this back and forth. So I apologize for putting it back to the chair, but I need to know the date of his meetings.
For this question, I'm okay. Go ahead, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the Mayor. Thank you for that question. The board did anticipate this at our meeting yesterday and said that we would have an opportunity to review this pending the outcome of today's committee meeting. We said that we would potentially have a special board meeting to consider this. I don't know the timing of the council meeting and whether or not we'll make it to the council meeting, but obviously we'd want to expedite this as it is the will of both organizations.
Follow up?
Yeah, I hope we get back before we make this next final decision, because I certainly want to move this along so we can get to what you really want to deal with, and that's the reserves that we want to get to in the next step. So to me, I'm actually in support of the MOU. I think it's a great idea. I thank Council for bringing these questions forward in the past, and we've now got a document that I think is going to serve us both well. So in the end, I'd like to get this going and get this passed tonight if Council's in favor of it, and then have you guys come back and pass it, and then we can, next meeting, we can all be cheering thumbs up and getting this done. So that's where I'd like to get to. Thanks.
Okay, I have Councillor Scott, then Councillor Duhaney, and then Councillor Giordano.
So just further to what the mayor was saying, I agree, but ultimately someone has to sort of say yes first. And it's immaterial to me who comes first, especially because our CEO and the library board's CEO drafted this together. So from a staff level, there's alignment. I just want to address the questions about why did no one notice the reserve fund before? I will say we did and endeavored to change the policy last term. The reserve fund at the time, going back, I guess 7 years now, was substantially less. I would say it's almost tripled in that time. So it was a $300,000 problem at the beginning of last term, but we wanted to see it put into an investment vehicle at the time as well. I think I alluded to this earlier, but if the town essentially administers a library board reserve fund on trust for the library board, we should be able to do it in a way that's legally compliant while still respecting the library board's investment policy direction. I think there's a very simple way to, I was going to say square the circle, but we don't even have to square the circle. It just has to align the two intentions, and that should be easy enough to do.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Duhaney.
Thank you, Deputy Sando. So in regards to the reserve, when it comes on to the money, of course, I do agree in investment, definitely. Of course, if the money is sitting in a checking account and it could be making more money, why not? My objection to moving it is, or maybe Jeff or the finance officer can answer me, do we have a investment institution already, right? Because if we're planning to move the money, and again, if these questions should be asked, please someone let me know. If we're planning to take money, the investment, because we have $1.5 million, is there a institution already? Like when we move the money, where is it going? Do we already have that? Did we already do that homework, right? For me, some things was, for me personally, when it comes down to money, and again, for me, it wasn't transparent to me. I did not feel like I get much transparency, and it just, for me, it was very confusing and chaotic. So when it comes down to the money and the reserve thing, I'm gonna be very careful with how I approach it, right? And I believe that the library and the town has a great relationship, and as Councillor Scott mentioned, of course, I'm sure there's something, you know, I don't think the town is holding on to the money. Definitely not. The town is not holding on to the 1.5 million. I'm sure if there's an investment company out there and the library wants to invest the money, I don't see the town objecting. So for sure, I know that the town is not holding on to the money. I just want more transparency. I don't know if there's an institution out there. I know that it was mentioned over and over that we could have made this money. Who are we comparing these money to? Which institution are we comparing it to, right? And I did not get, again, I sit on the board, so, you know, even in open meetings, there's certain things that I don't seem clear on. And when it comes on to money and money business, I will not interfere with it at all, because so at this point, I don't feel comfortable until I get clarity with a lot of things, and I am not going to get involved in the money business. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Giordano.
How do I say this? So this has been discussed at length at the library board, and the town is absolutely holding on to the money. That's why they're asking to put it into reserves. Or to take our reserves and invest them to actually yield something more than just, if you put it in a checking account, you're not getting an interest. So the point is that they are holding it. They're holding it in a checking account, and we're not getting the interest. So the money is sitting there not earning. So we've had many discussions in our council or in our library board meetings about this. I do share a concern with the MOU though in particular, because although I've seen this now because it's in our report, I haven't had a chance to debrief with the library board on it. So as a council member, I want to. But also as a library board member, I'd like to also sit down with the library board and review this MOU before I go ahead and make sure that this MOU is actually delivering what it needs to do. There could be a potential for us to maybe, dive into it a little bit more and see if it's actually advantageous for both parties. And as the board, we haven't had a chance to meet on that to discuss it. So I know Councillor Scott said, yeah, somebody has to pull the trigger first, but the point is I wouldn't be doing my due diligence as a library board member by approving this today, because as a board, we have to have a chance to review this in detail to see if it's aligned with our core values.
So what we're doing tonight is, if this was voted forward, this is a committee of the whole. It'll come back to council in 2 weeks. In the meantime, what our hope is that this goes back to your library board. They review it as a board, and if there's any issues or concerns that they have, they raise it. And prior to coming to council, we know what those concerns or issues are. And if that time we need to pull it and refer it back to staff for further work, that's what we're going to do. Tonight, we're looking at the MOU, passing it. This is the first step, recognizing that there's 2-3 other steps before we finalize this. That's how I understand it. I hope it's the understanding of everyone around the table. With that, we had a good discussion. I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of this MOU? This is the MOU that's before us to pass. All in favor? Sorry. Go ahead. Your follow-up was for the investment, if there was, yeah, go ahead. And I think your question is going to be for the CAO.
Thank you. So I'd mentioned before when I spoke that I don't believe that the town is holding on to the library's money. So Jeff or Ian, the $1.5 million that is sitting in the checking account, is the town holding on to it? And if so, why is the town not releasing that money? Again, my understanding, the town is not holding on to the money. I already know that, but I just want to know.
All of our reserves, including those for the library, are managed together by our finance department. They are in a checking account that does actually earn interest, so there is some interest being earned there. The recommendation that's in front of council tonight, so it's to endorse the MOU in principle, as well as to direct us to come back with updated capital reserve policies, both the corporate one for the town as well as the library, because at the moment there are two that don't really see eye to eye on certain elements. So we want to ensure that that they are harmonized and that both council and the board are comfortable with them, as well as to report back on an investment agreement or some kind of approach where we work together on an approach to managing those reserves in a manner compliant both with Libraries Act as well as the Municipal Act. So to speculate exactly what that will look like today would be difficult. We need some time to reason through that and report back to council on both those pieces.
Go ahead.
My question is, let's say this passes from council today, and it comes next time. Let's say I don't vote in favor of it because I haven't had a chance to review it with the board. Do I have the ability to pull it next meeting? There's no issues with me pulling it, not in favor of it, because it's committee of a whole.
Councillor Giordano, that's given. Today you're voting with your councillor hat on. Next week you'll be voting with your library board member hat on. And then when you bring it back, you have every right to pull it. Okay?
And my only concern is with not deferring this is that because if the library board cannot have a meeting in time for the next council meeting, this could ultimately get passed through by council before the board has a chance to address it. So it's actually putting a bit of a gun to our head to make sure that we hurry up and address this right away. That's my concerns.
We have a CEO and the chair of the board sitting in front of us, and I'm sure you guys gonna meet. If you don't meet, you still pull it at that time when it comes to council and refer it back for an extra time. It's not, there's understanding around this table. I'm gonna call for vote. Sorry, right? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen and Nina, for your time. And thank you for waiting. I know you're waiting to go back to your kids. Okay, with that, I have a recommendation that the committee of the whole meeting adjourn at 10:11 p.m. Moved by Councillor Scott, Councillor Dyke. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go through the rest, and I think you did mention Councillor Harper left, right? But he's going to return live in a few minutes. He's got to run home. He's got to deal with his children. So, okay. So I'll reconvene the meeting at 10:12. We have committee minutes and recommendations. I have a recommendation that the committee minutes and recommendations, item 17.1 inclusive, be received and approved. Moved by Councillor Dehaney, seconded by Councillor Dyke. Excellent. All in favor of the recommendation that the minutes of the October 1st Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee meeting be received? So, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right. No new business. We're into bylaws. So we have two bylaws here. We have to do one first. It's 19.1. It's the Hall and Marsh Drainage Scheme 2025 Assessment Schedule Bylaw. The 2025 Assessment Schedule Bylaw B was initially received and provisionally adopted on September 2nd as no appeals available. No appeals available under the Drainage Act were received and the time for appealing has expired. The bylaw is now eligible for a third and final reading to formally adopt the engineer's report. So the recommendation is that bylaw 2025-91 be read a third time and be enacted on the 21st day of October 2025. Moved by Councillor Verkuyk, seconded by Councillor Scott. All in favor? Excellent. Passed. That one's done. Okay, we have bylaws. Recommendation that bylaws 2025-103, 104, and 105 be passed. 103 is a boring bylaw. 104 is a community safety zone bylaw amendment, and 105 is a traffic bylaw amendment. Mover seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor Sandu, seconded by Councillor Ferragini. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We're into, where am I? Okay, we're into notice of motions, and we have a motion on the floor, right? You want to read your motion? It's your motion.
Thanks. So I'll read it with my auctioneer voice on. Whereas housing affordability is one of the most pressing issues facing Ontario families, whereas the federal government recently announced GST relief for first-time home buyers on new homes, and the province of Ontario removed the provincial share of HST on new purpose-built rental housing, and whereas the current HST rate on new homes in Ontario is 13%, which adds tens of thousands of dollars to the costs of a typical new home, e.g. about $117,000 on a $900,000 home in Bradford before any existing rebates. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Bradford West Gwillimbury calls on the Government of Canada to remove the GST-HST from all homes purchased as primary residences and to work in partnership with the Government of Ontario to ensure full elimination of the provincial portion as well. And be it further resolved that this resolution be circulated to the Prime Minister of Canada, Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities, and to the Premier of Ontario, the Ontario Minister of Finance, the Ontario Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, our local MP and MPP, and to all municipalities in Ontario.
Moved by Councillor Scott, seconded by Councillor Dehaney. Questions or concerns? Yes. Okay, I've got Councillor Scott first. I'll go Councillor Dehaney next.
Sure. Thanks, Your Worship. So I think we all know that housing affordability is one of the biggest challenges facing families in our community, across the province, across the country. As the motion says, a typical home in Bradford, the HST adds nearly $100,000 to the purchase price, which is a barrier to home ownership. We talked at another council meeting about how housing costs are a factor of all of the inputs and all of the externalities and all the costs that are piled onto housing, but at the end of the day, the consumer has to pay the bill. And the federal and provincial governments have already acted on eliminating the HST for rental housing and a few other niche aspects, and I believe it's time to advocate that they consider in their forthcoming budgets to extend that relief to new primary residence homes. So I think it should be limited to primary residences. Removing this tax burden would help families buy their first home and give builders more room to deliver attainable housing. So simply put, this motion is proposing a major tax cut that would let families, seniors, anyone buying a new home keep more of what they earn in order to buy a home, and it would hopefully then have a positive effect on the broader housing market if new homes weren't facing that 13% tax burden. I believe it's a straightforward, practical way to make life more affordable and help restore the dream of home ownership for working families. It is, I think, a dirty little secret in Ontario and in Canada that so much of the purchase price of a new home is actually taxes. And if a primary residence is your largest investment, perhaps even a human right, I think that is an area where the government shouldn't be taxing us.
Thank you. I have Councillor Dehaney, which was seconder, and then I've got Councillor Verkuyk and then Councillor Dyke.
Thank you, Mayor. Even though I clearly understand that this motion is a federal and provincial issue, it's their, this is their thing. But of course, as municipality, we can advocate, as you mentioned. So I do support it as the advocacy, right, for the motion. But definitely, I know it is. There's nothing that municipality can do to change this. But of course, we can, lend our voices and advocate. And that's why I support it. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. I've got Councillor Verkuyk and Councillor Dyke.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to this per se. I just want to kind of clarify something in my mind. When it says saving $117,000, does the builder not have to pay HST, GST on all the materials he's purchasing, like the lumber, the windows, the shingles? So that's still going to get passed on to the consumer, one way or the other, because the builder's not going to pay that. He's going to pass that on. So it's not $117,000. So it's only the value added that the builder puts in, the labor and all that is the savings.
Yeah, the HST is on the purchase price. And okay, I got Councillor Dyke next.
In principle, I would say I agree. At the end of the day, like I have two boys, and cost of housing is definitely quite a big step. And I know many other councillors on the table have the same challenges. Now, anything that the federal government or provincial government comes up with will definitely be a big help to the first-time home buyers. And I must say, this is great for first-time home buyers or anybody to buy their main home. Now, I look at things differently when it comes to investment property. That's a different issue. But I would just hope that that the province, the feds, start looking at this, because with such a slow housing market, we need to get this going. Just like the town when it comes to lot levies, we have to be very efficient in how our money is spent, and hopefully the province can come back to and with some creative ways of saving money in those fields. But anyways, in principle, I'm in definitely in favor of it, because anything we could do to get people either condo units or housing, make it more affordable, would be great for the young generation moving forward.
I see Councillor Harper has joined us. Welcome back. We're just on notice of motions. Councillor Harper, it's Councillor Scott moved it, seconded by Councillor Dehaney, that it's the HST removal in new homes. So any further comments or questions? So did you have any comments or questions, Councillor Harper, before I call the vote? I know you just got tuned in, but.
No, I've been online.
Okay. Sounds good.
I followed along. I'm good. I'm up to speed. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I see no further comment. Add AMO, you're saying? Yeah, we can stick AMO in there. Okay. There's no further comments or questions. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, general announcements. We're into announcements. Okay. Oh, shoot, yeah. Yeah. Shoot, I forgot that. Where is that? Sorry, I have a motion. I have a notice of motion on the floor. Council, I sent it out earlier. Can we put it up on the screen? And I'm going to ask for a talk about this motion as soon as I put it on the floor, and then I'm going to ask for council to waive procedure bylaw so that we can deal with this motion directly tonight if you're in favor of it. So the motion is whereas Side Road 10 north of Line 8 is under the jurisdiction of the County of Simcoe, County Road 54, whereas South Simcoe Police Services reports that it attended 24 multi-vehicle collisions at the intersection of Line 9 and Side Road 10 in 24, a dramatic increase in collisions over the previous years, whereas traffic volumes at the intersection increased 86% between 2015 and 2023, whereas collisions continue to occur at an accelerating rate, which is of great concern to council. I can probably see it better up there. Be it therefore resolved that the council in the town of Bradford, Gwillimbury hereby requests that the County of Simcoe, 1, reduce the posted speed limit of Side Road 10 to 60 kilometers per hour from a 0.800 meters north of Line 9, immediately implement a roundabout at the intersection, and undertake any other improvements necessary to ensure the safe operation of the intersection. So, council, that's the motion I want to put on the floor. Now, I need to do a procedural bylaw first, so I would ask.
What's changed from what you said?
No, I know, Councillor. I know. I got to vacate the chair, right, to put this forward? And the deputy just vacated his chair. So, we need to take a 30-second break, or I need to put somebody else in the chair? All right. We can install somebody in the chair? You want to? Okay, good. Run the chair. So.
All right, Mayor, is there something you want to put forward?
Yes, sir. So I'd like to ask council to waive the procedural bylaw under section. I had it last week. Ask for motion to be considered 2/3. Yeah. It's okay. He's back. Yeah, the council waived the notice requirements for a motion regarding traffic mitigation improvements at the intersection of Line 9 and Side Road 10 to be presented. So that's the notice I'd like to, or that's the motion I'd like to put on the floor, so council can waive notice. I need to move. I'll move it. Seconded by the deputy. Oh, well, sorry, you're in charge.
So let the chair do his business here. So I need a mover and a seconder. So we have Councillor Verkuyk and Deputy Mayor Sandhu. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, comments, questions, concerns? Councillor Verkuyk.
Sorry, Chair. I would prefer to see a staff report on this roundabout. I don't know whether we need to procure any land or anything.
It's just on waiving.
Sorry?
It's just on waiving notice right now.
Oh, just on waiving notice. Oh, sorry.
All right. So any questions regarding to the waiving of the motion? No? Okay. All those in support of waiving the motion? Okay, passed?
You're the chair, you don't vote.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna vote anyways. Okay, so what's next is we're gonna move into any, sorry, you got question, comments on the motion? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I was hoping you'd ask me first to speak because I read it earlier, right? I read it earlier, so we all know what the motion is. I'm just...
Sorry, just to confirm, do we have a mover and a seconder, Madam Clerk?
Right, moved by...
So we need a mover and a seconder on the actual main motion? Yeah, so I'm gonna give it to Councillor Ferragini, seconder Councillor Dyke. All right, Mayor, now it's your chance.
Thank you. I'm jumping the gun. I apologize. You're doing a hell of a good job, Chair. You're keeping me in control. No, the reason why I asked for this to be waived is this has come to our attention, and it was brought to our attention by a couple of residents. And when looking into the stats, it was really shocking to see that we had that many accidents. And I thank our staff, our Director of Transportation, Tony, and the Chief of Police to send us the stats. And it was amazing that we had 24 accidents at that corner in 2024. You know, we went back, I think we have stats going back 7 or 8 years, and you could see the 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, but then it jumped up in 23 and it jumped up in 24, and we haven't got the stats for 25, but we know there's been several incidents at that intersection already in 25, and you know, here we are at Pumpkin Fest on Saturday, and don't we have a major incident there an hour after opening? We had a 3-car collision there at that intersection, which shut it down. So I thought I was going to ask that we would I would have brought this to our Strategic Initiatives Committee, but because we have canceled the meeting for this month, that I thought I would like to bring it forward now, because I think we need to do action. I think we need to take action on that intersection. I did talk to the general manager of at Simcoe County and let him know that this was coming. So I sent him all this information, and I was just hoping that we would support this motion. I had written a little differently earlier, but in speaking with Councillor Harper, and he's got his hand up, so I let him speak to it next. He mentioned that this is a great sorry. I said asking you that maybe you let him speak next. Yeah, and I realized it was a great opportunity because it is a perfect spot for a roundabout. It makes sense, and there's no housing out there, so it could be built into the system pretty well. And I know the county likes roundabouts. They do roundabouts throughout the county, and so I think that this would be certainly supported. But it also says, and undertake any other improvements necessary to ensure the safe operation of the intersection. So we've put it in. We prefer a roundabout, but they can bring other ideas to the table. So that's my suggestion for tonight, and hoping that we can get support for this so that we can get it to the county so it's on their next agenda in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I was on all those emails from the residents that came through, and we were conversing back and forth, and it was quite alarming. I have Councillor Verkuyk next.
Yeah, I would like to amend this to say immediately investigate a roundabout or traffic signals, because we don't know what the if there's going to be land costs, purchasing or whatever. Let Simcoe County investigate it and come back with the best alternative. Let's not be too prescriptive here.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Verkuyk. I have Councillor Harper next, then Councillor Ferragini.
Motion's still up there. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Yeah, so if you read point number 3, and the mayor talked about it, the improvements necessary to ensure the safe operation of the intersection, that addresses what Councillor Verkuyk just talked about. I don't think an amendment is necessary. The roundabout really will speak to that. You want to put these in places where low residential area. If you put lights here, there'll be lights that'll be like flickering in the area or people's homes. A roundabout will not affect and try to maintain still the type of rural kind of area or rural density kind of landscaping. That's why I proposed the roundabout there. 20 years ago, Line 8 should have had more roundabouts all the way across. but we've had built up areas. So this is an opportunity for us to just set that record straight. The roundabout fits perfectly in regards to the description of what it should be. I don't know if the land uses and stuff like that, that will be reported on and given back to Simcoe County, and then they can give it back to us. It's their land on this roadway, so they ultimately have that. Now, we came across this in regards to like signaled intersections when we talked about line 9 and County Road 4 when we were on the traffic committee, and we asked Simcoe County to consider that. That one made more sense, right, just because of the landscape there. But where this is right here in regards to the traffic and why there's been so much increase is because of the recreational hubs have all been pushed to Henderson Park in regards to the uses there. And we don't have any other types of like high football or soccer fields and large splash pads use or picnic areas in the town. Maybe that's something we have to address as well. But this roundabout will actually help, mitigate that scenario. That's my comments there. But I'm in support of this.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harper. I just want to go back to Mayor Leduc. Councillor Verkuyk made an amendment. Can we call it a friendly amendment?
We're still discussing.
Councillor Verkuyk made it an amendment. Did you not?
I did move it.
Yeah.
Or are we just discussing stuff?
I did move it. The movers were Councillor Virginia and Councillor Dykey, right?
Oh, sorry. That's correct. No. Okay, yeah, sorry, Councillor Ferragini and to Councillor Dykey. That's a friendly amendment. Do you guys support that? Okay, Councillor Verkuyk, do you want to just confirm exactly what that statement was?
Sure. It's put the motion back up there. It's just immediately investigate the putting in a roundabout or traffic signals. And my one concern is we're going to put a multi-use trail all the way from the 8th line. We just talked about that. So people have access by bicycle and walking to Henderson Park. And then we're going to put a roundabout there without any care about the pedestrian. So,
Thank you, Councillor Verkuyk. Madam Clerk, are you good with everything for the amendment? Okay. All right, I have Councillor Ferragini next.
Thank you. So I'm okay because we want to investigate. We're not demanding them to put in one or the other. I'm okay with that. But what I would like to do is I would like them to install it as a four-way stop for the interim. Four-way stop, large stop signs, flashing red lights. With the amount of collisions that we're having in the interim, it's a quick, inexpensive fix. You get 4 large stop signs out there with blinking lights, and then they can investigate what works best. The roundabout, traffic lights, whatever the case may be. But I think that if we made that a 4-way stop, it would be safer because it would allow people to, people coming up to it will see the big signs, they will slow down, they will stop, and it will give people time to turn without having, hopefully without having the issues that we're having today.
So, Councillor Ferragini, is that another friendly amendment to add that line in there where it says, and to immediately implement a temporary 4-way stop sign with blinkers?
Yes, that's what I'm asking for.
I assume I have your support. Do I have the mover and the seconder's support to that friendly amendment? Okay. Madam Clerk, are we working on that? Pardon me? Absolutely. In the meantime, I'll go to Councillor Dykey.
I just have a question to the mayor and deputy mayor. If we pass this motion or friendly amendment or motion, does this have to be presented at county council, or does it just goes to staff? Does the delegation have to come from us at the county, or what's the procedures? Just inquiry.
Thank you, Councillor Dykey. Who would like to address that? The representative of the county will.
Yeah, Mayor Leduc. Yes, this will go up to county. It'll actually go on the agenda. And I've talked to the general manager. I expressed our concerns. I sent him an email today with all the data on it. I am, we don't really need all this in that resolution. I said to him it would be easy to put a four-way stop up there. It's something they can look at. I prefer to leave it as simple as possible for them and let them come back and tell us what they can do. We've brought the data to them. We've brought the resolution. Just allow them to do what they need to do. And I think the simplest thing is the first one. They're going to reduce the speed limit. That's an easy one. And then a four-way stop sign for now until they figure out if they're going to do the intersection as a signalized intersection or if they go with a roundabout. The key was to fix the problem today. So I didn't want to get too deep into it, but you know, I don't think we have to worry about four-way stop and signals. That'll get there. We'll just make it very simple, and I would go right back to saying we want this fixed. So in my mind, I go right back to saying the reduced speed limit, and then I'd say and undertake improvements necessary to ensure the safe operation of the intersection. I mean, you know, we want, if they'll tell us if they want a roundabout, they'll tell us. They like roundabouts. I think roundabouts are good. They love roundabouts, so they'll come back and tell us how to do it. I just want it fixed. I think we need to fix it today, not to put too much in there to confuse them. I want to make sure that we have it there. So it's because it's county council that has to support this. 30 other members. We'll talk in favor of it, but 30 other members have to say yes to this. If we put all this in there, they're going to say, well, that's going to cost us. Where's the money coming from? And they're going to look at us and we're going to say, well, so to me, it's keep it simple. Let the general manager themselves, you know, come back. They'll say, let us bring a report maybe, which will then indicate what they're going to do in the future. But I'd like to make sure that we get the reduction of speed and the four-way stop for sure. Those are two things that I think could be done like that, and I think county council would support that because it's not a big expense to them. So I'd like to keep it simple.
Okay, so you're asking to remove section 2 from your motion? For the amended motion, yes. Because right now we have a friendly amendment but that was part of your original motion that's been friendly amended. So now if you want to take that out.
Yeah, because it's getting too long, and I think I'd like to remove 2 altogether and just say reduce the speed limit and undertake any improvements necessary to ensure the safe operation of the intersection. It allows them to understand what they want to do there.
Is this yet another friendly amendment that we're trying to make on this on the fly? This is getting a little silly. So what I'm asking maybe is we may have to just listen to the rest of the council and then we'll address it in the end. And if it gets defeated, then you can go back and you can revise at that point. So I now have Councillor Duhaney, and then Councillor Ferragini, and then Councillor Verkuyk.
So I'm going to be very quick. Maybe Mayor can answer this. So the expense will be from the county. They're the one that will be covering any improvements at all that we're doing. So it will be the county that will be covering the cost of anything. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Councillor Ferragini.
I don't feel that we're making it that much longer or convoluted, but I get what you're saying. But I would still request you keep 2 in there and say immediately install the four-way stop. Because if we don't have that in there and it just says undertake any other improvements necessary, they could go back with a report. They could come forward and say a roundabout or lights or whatever, but nothing gets done in the meantime. So if we at least say, hey, you got to put these stop signs out there as an interim until you guys figure out what you want to do with this intersection, figure out the safety aspect, but I think we should direct or recommend them put those stop signs in as soon as possible.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Verkuyk again.
Yeah, I still think we should leave 2 as it's written there because this is what we're asking for as our council. And so it's not ambiguous.
Okay, with that, anybody else? Otherwise, I'm going to call the vote. We have Councillor Harper again. Councillor Harper?
Yeah, I'm in favor of the main motioner, Councillor Ferragini, just leaving 2 to just put the stop signs right in. I agree with the mayor that they'll just decide what's happening with the report that they do, but putting the stop sign in right away is probably the best, recommendation right away. Because nothing will address in the interim If we take 2 out, it won't address what we would like in the interim while they decide. So I support taking out 2 or amending 2 to just to have the stop signs put in the interim right away.
So Councillor Harper, right now we're going to vote on this as is based on all the friendly motion amendments, and then if it doesn't pass, then we'll go back to the main motion and we can address it at that point. So with all that, call the vote. All in favor of the amended motion? I can't see everyone because I'm not in that position, so I can't see if Harper's up. It's passed. It's, yeah. All right. So then we have to go back to the main motion. Okay, I'm going to go back to the main motion. Call for the vote. All in favor of the main motion as amended? Okay, that's passed. I'd like to hand this back over to our mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellent job, Councillor Giordano. You got us through that complicated system. And thank you, everybody, for support of this. It's something that we definitely need to get done at the 9th and 10th Side Road. It was just so apparent. It's crazy. I couldn't believe when we seen the stats. So it's scary. So we'll definitely hopefully get something up at the county through that. Okay, we're on to general announcements. We'll move through this quite quickly. Up and coming events, if you want to put that on the screen, please. We have Ward 1 CAN meeting. It's going to be held Wednesday, November 12th from 7 to 9 at the Fire Station 1 at 77 Melbourne. So come join myself, Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Dehaney for her Ward 1 CAN Access Networking meeting. So then we have a Ward 3 CAN meeting also Saturday, November 22nd from 10 a.m. to 12 at the Bondhead United Church. 4221 Simcoe County Road 88. That's the Ward 3. Come join myself, the Deputy Mayor, and Ward 3 Councillor Ben Verkuyk at the Bondhead United Church. We have other events that are coming up. We have the Nightmare on Colburn Street. And if you haven't been there, you got to go. I was there today, and I'm going to tell you, that is amazing. There's 2 levels of scare. There's the minor scare, it's early in the evening, and the later scare. I took the minor scare, and that was enough for me. I said, that was enough for me. There's no way. That is going to be a fun thing. Oh, I tell you, I'm not good at that stuff, and I thought I'd have nightmares at the end of that. They were good taking me through there, and I was just going crazy. But a lot of fun there, so please come out October 21st to 25. Less scare from 4 to 5:45, and the scarier part from 6:15 to 8, and I'm not going to that one. That's at the BWG Youth Recreation Center at 226 Colburn Street, $3 cash entry. Just look it up on their website at townofbwg.com/youth. But go enjoy that. That's a lot. That's going to be a lot of fun. They do a great job. Accessibility Advisory Committee public meeting is Monday, October 27th at 7 p.m. at the Community Hub at 177 Church. Everyone is welcome to attend, provide feedback on transportation, on-street parking, recreation trails, and more. So join us for the Accessibility Advisory meeting Monday, October 27th. Halloween house decorating contest, that's on now. So show off your spooktastic outdoor fall and Halloween display. Send up to 5 photos of your display to halloween@townofbwg.com with Halloween decorating contest in the subject line, or tag us in your photos on social media. Submission deadline is 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday, October 31st. And that's a lot of fun too, so please, if you can, promote this. Let's get the homes. I've seen them already decorated out there, a lot of homes, so please, let's promote this and have some fun with the Halloween decorating contest. And then to move into the next season, we have the Santa Claus Parade. Join us for the exciting BWG Santa Claus Parade on Saturday, November 15th from 6 p.m. to 7:30. Float application deadline is noon on November 3rd, 2025. So go to townofbwg.com/Santa Claus Parade, all one word. So join us on the 15th. Other events and campaigns. We have the Youth Scholarship Program. So BW Youth Scholarship Program, $5,000 in scholarships available, 5 awards of $1,000 each for local high school graduates and post-secondary students. Apply by November 10th, 2025 at 4 p.m. And you can do that at the town of bwg.com/scholarship. So please share that also with as many youth as we can so we get as many applications as we can. It's a wonderful program set up by the Youth Advisory Committee, so endorsed by Council Prior. So thank you very much for that. The Youth Council Advisory Committee, we are looking for new applications. So are you a BWG resident from age 12 to 18 who is looking to get involved in youth initiatives within our community? We're looking for members for our new Youth Council Advisory Committee. Deadline for applications is November 12th, 2025 at 4 p.m. You go to townofbwg.com/YCAC. Youth, come on out and apply for our committee. It's a lot of fun. Last one, it's Local Government Week. Local Government Week is an opportunity to celebrate the people, places, and programs that keep Bradford, West Gwillimbury running smoothly, and from our parks to our public library. Follow us on our social channels throughout the week to learn more about town staff, council, and how you can get involved in your local government. Folks, we have a bunch of schools signed up, and I know council members some council members are signed up. If you can join us, we did Mother Teresa this week. We've got other schools, 4 or 5 other schools signed up for Local Government Week. It's a lot of fun to see the grade 5 students and talk about local government. I actually ran into a gentleman here in the library coming in, and he thanked me for it because we did give a few prizes away while we were there. And he thanked me for his son getting a prize at Mother Teresa. And he actually said, I didn't realize there's 4 levels of government. So, don't give that question away. That's part of the Local Government Week. So don't spread that around. Lots of fun with the kids, so join us then. Mayor, I'll turn it over to you for a County Council update.
Before I go to that, I want to wish Happy Diwali and Bandi Shore Divas to everyone that's celebrating today. Diwali is not only celebrated by Indians, it's celebrated by Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains. Many cultures celebrate it. Some celebrated it yesterday and some are celebrating it today. So I just want to wish Happy Diwali to our residents. And as far as the County Council update is concerned, it was only a public meeting on the Barrie and Springwater Oro issue, and Councillor Verkijk attended on my behalf. It was just a best public meeting he attended. As far as when he told me, he said it was only for public, and Council only got to ask any clarifying questions, because this was public's turn to ask questions and get involved. But anyway, that was the update. When their report comes back, we'll bring it back and update the council here.
And thank you for running about Diwali. Yes, happy Diwali to all of our friends out there that are celebrating Diwali. I apologize for not having that on our announcements. Councillor Gini?
So to our next meeting, November 1st, we start the month of November again. That's coming up. So I will be starting a team again. If you guys want to get involved, be throwing it out to staff as well. It's a fun time every year to just raise awareness and raise some funds to help with men's health. And also, I just want to say, go Jays go. Huge supporter, especially this year. And we look forward to the game. So I'm excited about that, and just want to show my support tonight.
Excellent. Yes, show support for the Jays, and thanks for running about November also. I should have had that in our announcements, but all right, great that we did that, and yes, go Jays go for sure. We're in the World Series, so looking forward to that. I have confirmed proceedings. Recommendation of the bylaw 2025-106, a bylaw to confirm proceedings of the regular council and committee of whole meeting dated October 21st, 2025, be enacted. Moved by Councillor Dykey, second by Councillor Scott. All in favor? Carried. Adjournment. Recommendation of the meeting hereby adjourn at 10:48. Moved by Councillor Harper, seconded by Councillor Verkijk. All in favor? Carried. Thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great night.